listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is Love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
No, she had,
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is Love. And Isis
The Energy
kept,
is Love
like,
podcast.
walking by
The
in that cat that they
podcast
had there.
for the
She
universe.
kept like
The Energy
leading
is
me
Love
towards them, and I was
podcast.
like, but then I wasn't sure. I'm like, I feel like there's something else. I kept feeling this pull, and she took me in the back, and she had the drawers of all the stones. She's like, I can put them on this, and then there was just like this whole moment that we had back there. I'm like, okay, I think it's going to be one of those. So that was like a pulling,
Yeah.
but that's not. I don't remember if that's what it was or not. But I remember there was a specific that was that pulling, and then led us to the back because the
Nice.
cat was like, meow, this is where you're gonna look.
If you're just tuning into the podcast,
Oh, are you recording?
This is, I don't even know what that was. This is the latest update on the Metaphysical Shop in Magna, Utah. That's the unique podcast that we're doing today. So yeah, we started.
Statewide review of
Right?
Exactly. Let's start.
metaphysical stores in Utah.
Is there one? There's got to be one in Logan. We'll start up north and then work our way all the way
I'm
down south.
sure. I have a friend that lives there. I can ask real fast, but I don't know.
How cool of a road trip would that be? To like just go to all of them. Wouldn't that be neat?
Yes. it
She's
would.
like, okay, now we have our plan for next month.
I think tomorrow.
That sounds really cool. I know there's a few really nice gem shops, but ever since I got a rock tumbler, I've been rather hesitant to go because I could just make my own,
You just tumble
they
your own
don't.
rocks.
but they don't look as cool.
So come up closer. This is Andy. I have no idea what your last name is.
Uehling.
Uehling.
Yeah, I
And-
married him for his money, not for his name.
And you go by Andy because it's really Andrea, right?
Yeah.
But you go by Andy. Okay. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
the podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out and coming and doing the show.
Thank you for listening to me ramble in a class and
I'm-
just go, yeah, interesting.
Very, very excited. It is really interesting, actually, and it'll make sense why you're here in a minute. That
It's
sounded
okay.
terrible.
It, a
didn't
little
it?
bit. It did. Just skirt past it. Skirt past it. That's what I do. I'm like, look away, folks.
Oh, this will make total sense here in just a second. No, I
It's
have a
about
bunch
to
of
become even more fascinating.
I have a bunch of questions I want to
Okay.
ask you, not just about what you do and your work and all that kind of stuff that we talked about, but first and foremost, we know each other from Jiu-Jitsu school or from
Yeah.
not school but class,
Yeah.
and the gym. Shout out to Tooele Martial Arts Academy, and
I
I
only
s-
ever call them like club or grapple snapple. So
Grapple Snapple. I like Grapple Snapple. That's a new one. I haven't heard that one. How long have you been going
to
that place?
to Tooele.
Yeah.
I've only been there for maybe 3 months.
Okay.
I want to say it hasn't been that long. Granted, I have no concept of linear time, so it could be less, it could be more. Who knows? But overall, I've been fighting for 3 years, and I started off with Krav Maga.
Krav Maga.
Mhm.
Do you know what Krav Maga is?
I was going
babe?
to say, for those that don't know, what is that?
It's basically brawling outside of an Irish bar at 3 a.m. on the ground.
All right.
No,
All right.
technically it's an Israeli martial arts style that they teach other people, but I did
like
not
your
learn it like that.
The Israeli army, like
Yeah.
the legit Israeli army, that's their go-to combative that they teach
Okay.
everybody in the military. And it's kind of no holds bar, just straight up fucking people up. Where it's not like we're going to pretend to do, no, we're going to jam the end of our rifle directly into your fucking eye.
So what do
kind
you
of
think
martial
about
arts.
the switch? Because I think this one's a little less intensive.
I think I am still unlearning how to put my knee into people's groins as a reaction. I honestly really like grappling and wrestling and like MMA style stuff more,
Mm.
solely because it's less presented like, okay, if you don't learn this and do it perfectly, you're gonna die. Because there's a lot of like weapons training and how to like disarm someone with a long gun or a short gun or a stick or a knife I really appreciate my old instructor for how well he drilled into like the studio exactly how to deal with it. It was a lot of pressure, and it was a lot of, you're gonna fucking die if you do not do this. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going, like, one, I trained in Detroit, so yes, I know I'll see a gun at some point, but like at that point I also will have a gun. Like
You're gonna
You're from
die.
Detroit?
I'm not from Detroit.
Okay.
I'm from LA.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes it any better.
Your base is covered. So how did your journey lead you here? You don't have to tell if you don't want to.
That's one of the caveats. I forgot a bunch of stuff because you ladies were doing your coffee talk about metaphysical shops. If we ask you stuff you don't want to answer, you definitely don't have to.
Coffee shop.
Right?
At any given point, you can just jump up and use the bathroom.
Okay.
We don't stop for anything unless I forget to plug in the battery.
Did you?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
It's working.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know what else. Anything else?
I also have like no information. So if I say something that's like, I don't know what's off limits, so please let me know.
I don't know anything about Andi either, other than she does jiu-jitsu and she's got a cool job and her name's Andi.
All right.
So I'm excited to learn more
I
about you.
also don't know a lot about myself. So who
I get that completely.
Who knows?
We might just discover more interesting things today.
It's a journey of self-discovery and introspection. And I feel like all of my spirituality and religion teachers at community college would be proud of me right now.
So before you tell us on how you go from Detroit to LA or LA to Detroit to Podunk, Utah, what about jiu-jitsu? Like, obviously there's a lot of women that train there, and there's a lot of women in MMA and in jiu-jitsu and in Mortal Kombat, there's 6 characters that are women as well. But I'm always fascinated by, because I've trained for a long, long time. And I started out back when it's almost 20 years, maybe 15 years ago. And
I wasn't there then. I don't know.
You remember 15 years ago?
that before you met me? Yes.
There weren't a lot of women. There was a handful of women that trained, and there was even fewer women that actually fought, I think, probably, like on the professional scale. But over the years, I've seen it not just increase and things like that, but I'm always like fascinated by women that go into that space because of how male dominated it is. And then the type of women that stick around and actually, because there's a lot of them that, don't stick around, just like men, obviously. And also I like what, that place that we go to does.
Yes, that one place.
Yes. In the way that they offer a lot of classes specifically just for women. I think that's a good thing and a powerful thing as well. However, just stepping into the space of jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and MMA at all, what is that like for you? And what about it do you find appealing? Fuck, that was like 15 minutes to get that question out.
I was like, where are we getting?
Jesus, the podcast is almost over. Okay.
I really like jiu-jitsu and just fighting in general because it is an awesome way to humble myself. My ass gets whooped on a daily basis. And so I'm diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder to an extreme. I take Wellbutrin, I take Lexapro, I take Klonopin. I got that shit on lockdown, but I still have a huge number of anxious thoughts in terms of I will never be good enough. I will not do this. It will never go anywhere. So I'm also very stubborn. So I know
this from rolling with you.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
No.
She does not like to tap for anything.
No, I will not tap. I will tap, obviously, but I don't want to. I really love the feeling of learning a new skill and being able to apply it to someone and putting that in my repertoire of things that I know how to do. This is a skill that I can reproduce clearly, functionally, and repeatably. And I also really like continually humbling myself to people who are just a shit ton better than me. Because every time I roll with you, I don't think I've ever gotten you to tap, and that's how it should be, honestly. I can't get big in my britches of I made a 12-year-old tap. That's not cool. Yeah. So I really like the juxtaposition between I am learning things from the old timers. I get to practice on the new people.
She did call me an old timer.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll fucking choke her out next week.
You will. I mean, there wasn't any doubt. So I really like that space. I don't do jiu-jitsu with a gi. because I was a figure skater for 9 years, and that kind of rigidity in training lends me to become more neurotic than not about how I present myself, how I train, how I compare myself to others. So it needs to be informal, it needs to be in good fun, and it needs to be teaching. And I can't get that with like a very formal martial art, where I can get it with rolling.
You know, it's funny. I'd never thought of like gi jiu-jitsu in that way because of like the whole belt. I've never trained gi. I'm familiar with it, and I've rolled with guys in gi, and I've kind of done some stuff, but I've never like quote unquote, I've never put on a fucking gi and rolled with anybody, and I've never taken it. Excuse me. But I know like obviously everything's not juxtaposition, but you can obviously, well, you can back and forth, right?
Yeah.
No gi at all. It's all the same, just tweaking minor things. But I never thought of it in that way of being such a structure. And it's very much a structured martial arts in the sense that, you know, not just the belt system, but the way that it's taught, the way that I've never thought of it as a structured form. And now that you bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, like regular no gi jiu-jitsu is like the Wild West and a bunch of fucking badass, like skater punk fucking smoking weed kids that are over there laughing at the guys in their fucking gis.
Yeah.
That's not what it really is in reality, but that's kind of the impression.
I've never heard that description before.
Well, that's what it feels like. It feels like a little bit more rebellious.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely.
jiu-jitsu itself was originally that martial arts, right? It was the martial arts and the gi and the belt system, that whole 9 yards. That's what jiu-jitsu was back in the day. And so that's the traditional thing. That's the thing. And so at some point somebody was like, why do we have to fucking wear gis? Obviously we can just fucking fight. And then now we have
Just street fight.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. I thought about that the other day because I think someone had asked me if I ever went to one of the G classes, and I was like, no. And then I thought about it more. I was like, that would make me incredibly anxious 24/7 because I can't kick as high as other people. So therefore I am worthless. I don't know if you knew this, but my self-worth is based solely on how high I can kick.
I relate.
Figure skater for
that's
9 years.
Cool. Yeah.
Was that like one of the first things kind of as a kid?
Yeah, so my mom grew up in Detroit. So this links back into like how I got to podunk, like buttfuck nowhere, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
I was a figure skater for 9 years. I went to nationals twice, but not in like the cool levels. But like, so there's levels to figure skating. And like when you're really tiny little tot, you're like in preliminary and you learn how to do like a crossover and how to stop. And then you get up to like juniors and seniors, and that's what everyone watches, is the juniors and seniors. I think I was something right before, like I had tested into junior for like footwork. There's a bunch of different paths and you have to pass all these tests. I did it for 9 years. I went to nationals. Doesn't matter.
I think that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
That's
I got
pretty
gold.
big.
I got gold twice.
That's an accomplishment. That's
fine,
good.
but not in the cool levels.
That's why you're minimizing nationals, taking gold in nationals. You're like, yeah, but it wasn't enough.
It wasn't cool enough.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Thank you. So I signed up to like do my senior moves or something like that to get to senior level so I could start doing the cool levels. And I kind of went, I don't like it. So I just didn't show up. And I was 16 at that time. I was over it because I had been skating for such a long time, and my mom was from Detroit. So she was like, yeah, we're going skating. You're going to be a skater. It's like, okay, Mom, sure. And so
what part of it was like rebellious? Because at 16, obviously everybody's
to not go.
rebelling against something.
Yeah, I think it was rebellious because at that time my mother didn't really have a clue that I didn't want to skate. And this has obviously gotten worked out in later years, like as I've grown up and become a more conscious human being with like actual thoughts and not just
16.
Yeah. I was very rebellious in my mind because she wanted me to do it. All my coaches wanted me to do it. And if I just didn't do it, that means I could do something else, like watch Doctor Who all day. And I thought that would be great. And so I just didn't go, and I watched Doctor Who that morning. I'm pretty sure I watched like a David Tennant episode. But yeah. And at that time I danced too, so like that's where all the dancer stuff comes in to jiu-jitsu and why I always want to point my toes, which they don't like.
What kind of dance?
Ballet, classical ballet. So the whole point shoe,
Whole 9 yards.
everything. And then as soon as I quit skating, my mom told me I was going to get fat if I didn't have a sport. And so she bought me a class to be a trapeze artist, like to do flying trapeze in LA. And so as
You're living in Detroit at the time?
No, I was living in LA.
Oh, okay.
We were in LA for most of my life, like growing up with my parents.
Remember to stay close.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I feel weird because I don't want to like deep throat it.
It's okay. You can totally deep throat it. It's on camera.
It's the shape.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're pretty phallic in nature, I
Okay.
admit.
Okay.
But what microphone isn't, right?
Well, I like these ones more. The other ones are more
Stop
bulbous.
stroking the microphone. I saw out of the corner of my
I
eye. I like this one. These ones are my favorite.
It's very.
They're big and black.
It's
and
appealing.
they sound really good.
Jesus.
Anyways, spent most of your time in LA.
Time in LA.
Ballet.
My mom signed me up for a flying trapeze class on the Santa Monica Pier. And then the first time I showed up, my soon-to-be boss told me that I had thunder thighs and that I should work on the board. And so I got a job in the circus. And then I moved out of my parents' house, lived on a boat in Marina del Rey, worked in the circus for a while, dated 2 men named Greg. Don't date Gregs. They're horrible. I don't like Gregs.
Never met a good one.
Never met a good one.
I'm teasing.
Oh, I've never met a
really
good one.
friend from when I grew up. Greg, if you're watching, you're a good one. Anyways, go ahead.
You're full of shit. Aren't you?
No.
Oh.
I have a friend. I grew up with Greg. You haven't never met him. I mean, early childhood friend. You know, didn't really. This isn't about Greg. Okay.
Okay. I was like.
So one of the Gregs was homeless, and
Okay.
I just invited him onto my boat. It was great. He left, and then shocking, wild how one would do that. And then I also tried to buy a boat with another Greg. Should I like be saying a different name beside like like it
No.
rhymes with Schmeg?
Yeah.
Or like
It's.
They're not going to be able to figure that out. You're okay.
okay.
I-
Oh no, I was gonna post this on my Facebook.
You haven't said last names. It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, they know who they are.
It's okay.
I sank that boat.
It's an alias.
You sink, like, for real? You sink the boat?
So like it got back into the harbor, but the sump pump wouldn't turn on, and it was an old sailboat from like the 60s. And so the sail ripped in half, and then the sump pump wouldn't turn on, so the bottom was filling with water. We couldn't unload it fast enough because the engine wouldn't turn back on, and so we ended up like finally getting it back on. We ended up scooping water out, and we like had to motor our little sorry ass that was like half in the water, half out, back into the harbor.
Oh, my goodness.
How old are you at this point?
At that point,
Yeah.
20.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I got another job in the circus, and I moved up to Seattle, where I lived in a place that was
Now you're
house.
thinking about everything
Now
you're
I
saying
am.
because people might watch or listen.
I am.
Hold on, shit. Did I move
Oh,
to
is it?
Seattle?
I did move to
Fuck, I
Seattle.
can't remember, but I don't. Oh wait, maybe.
Sounds like Meow.
It sounds like Meow. I lived in a place that rhymes with the hunky house. It was in the space that the circus was also in. That's really illegal. We started a fire.
Okay.
We put the fire out.
Definitely, you don't need to admit to crimes on the
Yeah.
podcast.
It wasn't a crime.
Okay.
It was.
Dad, don't do
It was it was like bad wiring
Bad wiring.
Oh, okay.
under the stage, and then
Hashtag
bad wiring.
Bad wiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I met a man named
Hashtag
And you,
Michael.
so
File
you
my insurance
saved the
claim.
day.
I saved the day.
You're
Exactly.
a hero.
I sunk a boat in
Yes.
LA and I had to escape to Seattle so
And
that I could
you,
burn a fucking.
you still got it to the marina. You
Yeah.
were very innovative, and you
Thank
made
you.
it work. And
I
then
also
you went
drank
and saved the day in Seattle. So
huge ass beer after that day. Like I ate my weight in burritos and also I think 2 to 3 margaritas and a beer. Like
I
I
feel
was
like you were entitled.
over it. That was the worst day.
You deserved all of that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm trying to keep track of everything.
This is amazing.
20 minutes in, and what the fuck did you do on the circus?
I was a flying trapeze artist, but I would like to clarify that I taught flying trapeze. So I was never good enough to be in any of the shows that anyone produced.
But yet you could teach it?
But, well, here's the thing. I have a fat ass. And so if I sit down, no one moves. Like, okay, so safety lines.
Okay.
You're pulling safety lines. And you have gloves on, and they're attached to the other person, and you're pulling safety lines. And if you sit down, if you're like fat enough and you just sit down and like kind of sit on the rope and get the rope wedged behind you and then just lay down on it, like they don't move.
Is this not a good thing?
No, that's a great thing. That's
I was
what you
going to
want.
say, the safety, right?
Yeah. So I was one of the lead instructors like down in LA, and then I ended up doing like a bunch of procedural work on, not procedural, like policy work on how all of the instructors in LA taught, to like revamp that. And then I tried to do the same thing in Seattle, and it all just blew up.
That's the wiring.
The wiring, yeah.
The wiring just absolutely blew up.
Yeah.
Is honestly the best way to say that. But yeah. And then I also taught, like, we did a bunch of there was silks, there was trampoline.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
It was a lot of fun. We used to play sardines in the hunky house, and just
What's the hunky house?
it's the monkey house, because a bunch of circus monkeys live there, but I didn't know if I wanted to say that in case it was incriminating to anyone who still lived there illegally.
Okay. I guess we just don't need to ask more about that, because there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, I do.
Like
That was. When we're done recording, I'm going to have a few questions.
Okay.
I mean, at this point, ballet.
Yeah.
Figure skater.
Yeah.
Sailor.
Not, I mean,
a
are you actually a sailor?
Maybe a
if you
pirate?
sink it?
Maybe a pirate.
You made it back.
I feel like I'm more of a floater. Not like if you were to compare it, like I wasn't motoring home, I was like motor floating home.
Motor floating.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to snort.
Motor float. Okay.
And now
awesome.
Trapeze artist.
Oh my goodness.
So what's next, Andy?
Oh my goodness.
I met a man named Schmeichel. Who decided to post on Reddit about how I was too fat for him to be his girlfriend, but he wanted to continue to be friends with my friends in the circus, and so he broke up with me, obviously. And then I was like, he's in the military, he's a military police. You know what's cooler than being in the military police? Being a human intelligence collector. So I moved from Seattle to Detroit, started Krav Maga, lost 50 pounds, worked at some really shitty places there that are actually illegal, and I will not be talking about them. And then I joined the Army.
Damn.
Okay.
Damn. You're supposed to join in when I
yeah,
get
yeah,
tables.
I'm so glad we have so much time on our hands. At what age did you join the Army?
my goodness.
Because at 20 we're sinking ships. I'm assuming
23.
23
we joined the Army.
23
Okay.
we
Yep.
joined the Army.
Yep.
Just the regular old.
Regular old Army, signed up for Airborne, 35 Mike, which is the human intelligence collector, 6 years.
Bam.
Okay, take us down that road.
So are you out now?
Yes.
Okay.
So I went basic. That was all great. Went to AIT. That was all great.
AIT stands for.
AIT stands for Advanced Individual Training.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Who knows?
What is
There's
that?
literally no way to know.
What is that all about?
Oh my goodness.
It's basically where you learn to do your job.
Okay, whatever trade you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I ended up at DLI, which is the Defense Language Institute. I was slated for Egyptian Arabic, and then
That
I
would've
Do you
been fun
speak
to
that?
learn.
do not.
Okay.
Because this is great.
Okay.
I got misdiagnosed as having a hip issue, when it turns out I've actually fractured my L3, L4 vertebrae.
Oh my goodness.
And it turns out that it had happened in basic.
Oh wow.
So I went through basic. Somewhere in basic I had like fractured those two. Those two are the ones where the nerves come through to the right hip, which is why they were like, oh, it's a hip issue. And so I got cortisone injections into my hip socket.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't help. Shocker. Like, of course, it won. Let's see, AIT was like 3.5 months. So I went through all of AIT, like learning with some fucked up vertebrae. And then DLI, I was like, hi, I need an actual thing. So naturally, instead of getting out on a medical discharge, I got discharged for having anxiety.
Oh, those.
How did they go from hip to anxiety?
Well, I was really sad. I was really sad about how no one could actually find an answer to me being in about a 7 or 8 pain 24/7. And I was expected to like sit down and be ready for Arabic every single day for like 8 hours a day. Well, that was incredibly stressful on my hips. Like, that hurt. My tailbone was hurting. My entire back was hurting. I didn't know what was going wrong. So yeah, I had anxiety.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. Fuckers.
So when they discharge you with anxiety as opposed to like a medical thing with your
They
hip.
could not find a single thing for me to get anything other than an honorable. Just because my drill sergeants loved me because I'm a fucking peach. I don't know if you've met me, but I'm amazing.
So that sucks.
That sucks
Well,
bad.
Like in your mind at the time, are you grateful? Like at some point you're like, what the fuck am I doing in the army? And so it kind of all worked out for you? Or was it like, God damn it, this was my plan, and now what the hell am I going to do?
So when it first started happening, it was definitely a goddamn it, like this was my plan. I signed up for 6 years. I signed up to be airborne. There's no way that I could go to airborne with a busted up back. Like, that would just make it so much worse. I did meet my husband in AIT 3.5 months, and then we got married directly afterwards. So I at least had support while I was going through that. Because why not just get the full army experience in the short amount of time in the army I had?
You made it work.
I made it work. I got everything that I needed to accomplish. I just didn't find him in a strip club, so.
What are you looking at me laughing about?
I'm not.
You're totally
you know
looking
why.
at me laughing.
I'm not. I'm not. Oh,
If I
God.
ever rejoin, like, the Natty Guards, I will go trolling for whomever, like Candy with an eye, in the Utah strip clubs.
You have to come back.
Okay.
You have to do this. Oh my God, my face hurts. Okay, keep going.
Do you need me to start
Yes.
banging on the table? Okay. It's a conniption fit. I can just see that.
Everything's fine. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Oh, okay. So how long have you been married?
2 years now? I think. Less than 2 years.
Yeah.
And what are we doing in Tooele, Utah?
Yeah.
So we moved to Salt Lake because so I got out of the army. We stayed in Monterey for a little bit because that's like Presidio Monterey is where the language school is. And I needed to go back to university. I had started when I was in high school, like my senior year of high school. I started taking my college classes at like the community college just to get a heads up on it. I knew I wanted to do anthropology then. University of Utah was really close to his parents, and we would have a support system. He could do his job that he was doing. He was a background investigator for the like government. He could do it in Utah and found a lot of work really easily for that. So we moved to Salt Lake. I went to the University of Utah. I got my EMT certification. Like, I didn't really quite know what I was going to land on. But then Bryce, my husband, got a job with automotive engineering. There's math involved. He buys a lot of wire. I
Okay.
don't quite know.
So he's definitely a hitman for the CIA,
definitely a hitman for the CIA.
because that's a cover job.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
absolutely.
he wears a tie sometimes.
Exactly.
It's terrifying.
Just another day at the office, honey.
Yep. We moved out to Tooele so he could go to site and be closer. So now instead of him driving 2 hours and me only having a 15-minute drive, which I thought was great, now I have a 45-minute drive to the university, and he has a 45-minute drive to site, which he doesn't even fucking work at anymore. So
Where is said site? I'm just
it's
curious.
Eagle Mountain.
Oh, Eagle Mountain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were going to answer. Like, it's sight.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
Secrets.
right? That's what he says.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to move out to Tooele so I can go to site. Mind you, Tooele County's like fucking hotbed for crazy military shit. So he's definitely part of some. It sounds like you married Jason Bourne, honestly. I think it's Jason Bourne.
Yeah, it might be. That's pretty cool.
He has trained for like an ultra marathon, which I find disgusting. So I know he can run
think
like
those
60
are crazy.
miles.
Okay, it's totally Jason Bourne. Yeah, he is this. Okay, maybe we should stop talking about this. He
I
might
would
have to-
absolutely like to point out, I want the record straight. I can outshoot him in every single weapon that we have.
Awesome.
My 30-06, I definitely can hit a bullseye farther away than he can. And that is important to me.
Well, it's on the record now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, go ahead, run.
It's going to be the title
See how
of
fast
this
you can go.
episode.
Do it. I dare you.
Andy, I've got a lot of
Oh,
serious
goodness.
questions that I want to ask you.
Okay.
We like to, I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to any of the episodes of the podcast, but
I came very prepared and listened to none of them.
perfect. It's like most of our guests. We talk about anything and everything on this show.
Okay.
And a lot of what we talk about is stuff that just Steph and I are going through
Yeah.
in some context, way, shape, or form, right? Because
Cool.
it's what we're focused on. It's what we're interested in. So the podcast over the years has just kind of fluctuated and flowed. One of the things that we talk a great deal about is mental health, emotional health. I mean, pretty much everything under that big, huge canopy.
Mm-hmm.
And how it, like the realities of it,
Yeah.
the things that really affect us
Mhm.
that we don't talk about, the things that people don't want to talk about, the things that people need help with, but nobody wants help, all those kind of things. We get just into the fucking weeds with all of it. So as you're talking and you're recounting all of these wonderful life events and all these different fun things, it's awesome. It's a hell of a life at this point, right? And you're only, what, 26, you said, or something?
Unfortunately, yes.
But I'm hearing so many things underneath it all. And that's kind of the stuff that if you're okay with for a minute, we can kind of go into a little bit more because, I mean, obviously right off the bat, you say you have anxiety, which is, I don't mean it's awesome in the sense that you have anxiety, but it's awesome because you're a perfect guest for this podcast.
Love it.
We talk about that shit all the time. Steph and I both have anxiety.
Don't throw me in that. I'll speak for myself.
Something that we've talked about a great deal.
I'm just
It's on the record already.
stuttering. Just even saying that and admitting that there's anxiety or anything else was such a difficult thing for me to get there.
I get
so
that.
yeah,
I
it
get
was-
that.
I'm there.
So we talk about a lot of stuff.
Cool.
And I get the sense that you have a lot of stuff. And I don't need to and or want to make you any more uncomfortable than you may be. But at the same time, our belief and what we kind of use as the driving force behind this podcast is if our conversations help somebody else who's listening, if our conversations help in the sense that somebody else doesn't feel alone, can relate with this situation or with what we talk about, and just realizing that, oh God, I'm not the only person, even if it's for a moment, right?
Yeah.
Or if we spark some idea or some thought maybe they didn't have, or any of these kind of things is why we try to do what we do. And it's hard because we talk about really hard stuff. Anyways, are you okay if we go there? And we don't have to, we can go on to whatever else.
So you're saying I get a free therapy session?
Well, we're definitely half-assed therapists.
We are not therapists.
We definitely have our own therapy practice.
We do not.
1-800.
Full of shit. Follow us, we know the way.
This is better than any therapy I've gotten from my other friends. So doubt you can get worse.
It's a challenge.
We're definitely not giving advice.
No.
Even though we might give you a little bit of advice. But we have found from experience that just the process of talking about shit oftentimes is so cathartic and so powerful, even if it's difficult, right?
Yeah.
So once again, are you okay if we go
Yeah.
into some of the things that
Yes,
stand out
I'm
to me?
sorry.
You're totally
I
okay.
Definitely like to respond to anxiety with humor.
I relate.
Shall we dive
That's my
into
love
that?
language. Yes. No, that's. I even tell him, like, we need something that's like, this is not a serious conversation. And I'm like, or, no, what do you say? It's like, this is a serious conversation. I'm like, but does it have to be?
Doesn't have it. Like,
Okay.
I could make fun of myself the entire time, so why not?
Do that. Uncomfortable silences, uncomfortable stress. Let's make it funny. That's how we know we're safe. Sorry, go
No,
ahead.
you're totally fine. So that alone right there, what you just ended with, that's how we know we're safe. So how long have you been using humor?
Okay, so as long as I can remember, and mostly because it is a way to make people like me, because there is a way to win at life, and if you're not hated, obviously you're doing something right. And I'm saying that like in all seriousness, is like if I can get my therapist to laugh, obviously I'm winning at therapy in my brain, which is not like a healthy coping mechanism, but it makes me funny. So
if people like you, you're winning at life.
yes.
Or you're doing life good.
Yeah.
Or you're safe.
Yeah.
Okay. So for as long back as you can remember, you've been doing that.
Yes.
Okay. So that is a coping mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to control anxiety, fear, whatever else we want to throw on top of that, right? Typically, things like that, coping mechanisms that we need in order to deal with our emotions, pop up because of emotions that we can't deal with.
Yeah.
Hence, we need to create and find some sort of coping mechanism for it. So, your story leads me to believe you have a handful of coping mechanisms, no more probably than anybody else, right? We're all the same.
What details of the story would you exactly point to that were the coping mechanism?
And so
It's been fine. Have you not been listening?
It's been funny.
Yeah.
no, it's very funny. It's a good story and it's a crazy life. But I can relate in some way.
Yeah.
I can relate in some way of like using humor, right? To feel accepted, to feel loved, to feel just worthy of being like around, right? Also, I always have, not always because I'm an adult now. That sounded terrible too. No, I have a past of trying to do wild and crazy things to seek attention, which once again leads to approval and all these kind of different things. And typically the wild and crazy things are like things that are outside of the norm. Like,
Me?
for example, living on a boat.
My story, wild and crazy.
Quitting figure skating to stick it to the man and then becoming a trapeze artist on the pier. That's a little crazy. Now,
He's not calling you crazy. I know
No,
that's
no,
how
no,
it
no.
came across. That's a little
Honestly,
wild.
looking back at like everything that I've done, if I had probably a diagnosis for anxiety and ADHD when I was younger, this probably would have been better managed. Like, in my head, this is a very funny story that gets me from point A to point B. And within the last 6 months, I've gotten most of my, I say most, and that is a grain of salt, most of my shit sorted. Like, I feel a lot more rooted. I feel a lot stronger, both in like my self-image. You know, I don't feel like I need to fill everything with silence. But I think it is, looking back on most of the decisions that I made, if I had a little bit better chemical balance, if I had maybe a little bit stronger or like outspoken support group, because that was definitely not like perfect. John Mulaney quote is like, I put it in my chest and then it die, and then I die. Like, that is how you deal with emotions. If I had a more outspoken support group, maybe all of this fun, fantastical, wild stuff would have been slightly tamer. But I didn't know. I didn't realize that anything was wrong because I thought everyone is trying to be, like, is coping the same way that I'm coping because it's 16 years old. How on earth do you have any concept of another person besides yourself?
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I interrupted like halfway through where you were, so I don't think you ever asked a question.
I don't remember the question I was going to ask.
Okay.
No,
Gucci.
not at all. So you're diagnosed with quote unquote anxiety when you're 23 and in the military.
No. I did not get a diagnosis for that until 6 months ago.
Okay. So prior to
Until
6 months ago.
So they removed you for that because they didn't want to have any responsibility or have to, I don't know, pay for anything because that's what they do. So they do that, but you still didn't have a diagnosis, and you've been fighting that this whole time till 6 months ago?
So actually, there's a really great resource,
Okay.
Vet Guardian. I found about it from a guy at school. They will help you take your VA documents all the way, and they guarantee like 30% higher than what you currently have. I didn't have any rating because I wasn't sure like what my deal was going to be. So I sent them all my documents, they laid out their price plan, whatever, yada, yada, yada. There's a website for it. And they'd asked me like, oh, all I see are your Army documents. Did you not have any documentation after? And I was like, no, the file was too big because I was finally able to see specialists that I had to attach it in the Google Drive. And here is a link to it because I had 100 pages of medical documents after I got out explaining exactly like, hey, here's the fracture. Hey, here's the diagnosis. Hey, here's what should have been prescribed. Hey, all of these things. So like that's fun trying to deal with that. But that's like,
Man.
I didn't have a diagnosis coming out of the Army. I didn't have a diagnosis for a long time until about 6 months ago. I got my back diagnosed a year ago, maybe at this point. Didn't realize that it like anything was wrong with it. I thought maybe I was just being a wimp. So
Your back was broke. You had a right to have some pain there.
It's wild when you have pain from a fracture in your fucking back.
God, you pussy. Suck it up already. At what point in your life do you have the awareness? Maybe it is just now. Maybe it is a year and a half ago. Maybe whatever it is. At what point in your life do you have awareness that not only do you have anxiety, but that it's something that you have been dealing with for a long time?
I mean, there's things, there are events, like in high school, there's always events that you're like, oh, if I had known what I knew now, I could have said, yes, I have anxiety about this. But I remember one day I was trying to hang out with a group of friends, and one girl looked back at me and said, why are you following us around? At that point, I should have gone, either I'm not interacting correctly with the people around me, or they're just being fucking bitches. Or a little column A, little column B. Like, I could take social cues better. At that point, I would have loved to have been, hey, Mom, I need to talk to someone about this because I'm not picking up on what other people are putting down. But that didn't happen until I started having absolute panic attacks. And it was actually after fight class that I thought I had said something wrong. And I came home and I started to cry because I was like, everyone's going to hate me. I said something wrong. Like, no one likes me anymore. I talked way too much. This is just like, I'm going to lose all my friends here. And my husband was like, all right, so I need you to smoke a bowl. We're going to go to bed. Because I didn't have Klonopin at that point. I didn't realize that I could have something to equalize brain function out in a way that my brain is supposed to be healthy and would do this normally, quote unquote, like neurotypically. So I really honestly think it hit like maybe a year ago when I realized like I need to look deeper into this. And at first I definitely tried to do the whole, I can meditate it away. That's nice. Meditation is really great. But if I'm in if I'm in a panic and like circling, I need to go home and cry. 15 minutes later, I'll be fine. But we need to talk about brain function that is atypical and typical, and what can I do personally to get to the typical. Yeah.
How do you get over it in 15 minutes?
A lot of alcohol.
Jesus. Cheers.
But that's the, like, it's always been very short. Like, if I have a panic attack, I need to cry really heavily, and I know if I have a bad panic attack, it'll be about an hour. I could shorten that to about 5 minutes with a Klonopin, which is awesome. Love that. I watch How It's Made, because that's like a comfort TV show, because I know what happens. I know how it's made already. I've watched it so many fucking times. And I will sleep and not sleep, but I'll scroll through Instagram, because like stimulation, bright screens, noises, moving pictures. Love
Takes
that
you
brain
out of it.
stimulation. Overload the mental senses until you can't feel anything anymore.
Okay.
Shut up.
What are you telling me to shut up?
You know what I'm telling you.
I just said okay. I
Dude,
didn't say
my
anything.
phone, my watch is even buzzing like,
Yeah. Our
Yeah.
phones communicate to us.
Oh,
It's a complete side note. It's not a big deal.
It's fine.
We're those kind of people that think our phones talk to us.
They don't, they're not like, hey, it just buzzes when things happen for like, it's like when your ears start ringing.
Yours
Okay.
might not say hey, but mine does all the
Okay,
time.
well, there you go. See, you're the weird one, not me. It's fine.
So I'm trying to find a delicate way to ask this because it's not necessarily, I don't even know if I need to ask it because it's not like something that we need to go into.
do it.
But I always think that it's beneficial in a sense that people understand, because I think it helps so many people to hear that they're not fucked up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the more people that are like, the more people that come out and say, hey, I'm fucked up, then everybody else gets to realize, oh, maybe none of us are fucked up. We're all the same, right? Because
Yeah.
we're all fucked up. Did that make sense?
Almost to the end till we're all fucked up.
Hence, we're all the same.
Yeah,
So
but
we
then you
don't have
fall-
to feel like, so we don't have to feel like we're the loners or the strange ones because we're fucked up. Shut up. You're just fucked up right now.
I
You've had
am.
way too much to drink.
I'm not fucked up, but I'm fucked up.
So, at what, like, do you know, are you aware of, that's probably the best way to say it. Are you aware of trauma from your past that you've gone through and experienced that has influenced this today? That's as far as we have to go, if that's okay.
So my dad died when I was 3. And then I'm pretty sure we had an exorcism in our house when I was like 5 or 6.
Okay.
And then, I mean, the physical trauma that like ice skating put through, or ice skating, I put all of the physical trauma in ice skating that I was put through. I have a definite reminder. Like, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of ice skating is I had to do sit-ups on the ice without my jacket because one of the coaches was angry at me. And so I had to do like 100 sit-ups or something. I was wearing a very low-cut halter back because I get sweaty. As you know, I'm a sweaty bitch. Well, when you do sit-ups on ice with a sweaty back, the sweat freezes to the ice and then you pull it back up. And so you kind of like pull a little bit of your skin off
Oh my
every time
goodness.
you do it. And I mean, that happened, and I thought that was like a thing.
Yeah.
That was just like a thing that I had to do because I fucked up and one of the coaches was unhappy. So I did the thing. When I figure skated, I mean, I had bloody feet constantly. I mean, there's a reason not a lot of people can get a foot lock on me. It's because there's no nerves left. I would take my skates off if I was skating for like 4 or 5 hours that day. I'd take my skates off. You stand on the ice to cool your feet down so they shrink back in, and then you can tie your skates up again and go skate some more. Like, let's see.
And the ballet, by the way.
The ballet, yes.
Cramming them
ballet.
into those really comfortable shoes
They're
that ballet
super
people
comfortable. I mean, I have everyone in the ballet class was super thin, so I had that's where a lot of the whole like I don't want to be in a rigid martial arts class because I will look like the odd one out. I'm 200 fucking pounds. I'm a big girl.
Ballet is that straight up stand exactly
Yeah.
this way.
Yeah. So like I feel very weird calling it body trauma, but I feel like that's probably what it would get classified as. Just, I don't look like other people. I'm built very, very differently. And I finally found something that I feel like that lends itself to. Because in jiu-jitsu, I just lay on the skinnier people and they don't fucking move. But in ballet and in flying trapeze and in skating, all of the things that I considered good about myself now were absolute something that I wish I could change every single day of my life. If I could cut off like just parts of my body, I'd be happier. So.
Okay, take a deep breath. Are you ready?
Oh, God.
So we're going to go back to the question.
Okay.
The question was, are you aware of trauma from your past that would have, precipitated some of these other issues that we've been talking about and things that have come up? And you answered it immediately in the sense that, the very first thing you said was, well, my dad died when I was 3 years old.
Yes.
So you drop the thing that causes probably 95% of your trauma.
Yeah.
And then you hurry up and spin all the way over here to where we're talking about feet on ice and all these other kind of things. And so,
Which are all still valid.
very, very valid.
Yes.
By all means, wasn't minimizing the validity of those things at all. However, obviously that's a big issue.
Yeah.
And I think it's fascinating, right? Like, I'm looking at it just from the perspective of I like to geek out over stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I know not absolutely everything about what has caused my issues and my trauma and my mental and emotional and all these kind of different things that I experience. But I pretty closely know almost all of them, right? There's probably something that I can't remember, but I have a really good sense of what has caused mine. I've sat with, just to give you context, back in 2017, I went on this retreat thing that was like a men's retreat type thing, got super heavily involved in men's work and started a men's group. So for like the last 3.5 years, I've been sitting with men in circles, talking about our emotions and processing all sorts of different stuff.
Love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. But I've also, I mean, that's given me a really good sense of like what causes trauma in men and what are some of the not stereotypical, but the common things, right?
Yeah.
And so everything, so your story starts with all of this wild and crazy, humorous, fun, exciting, look at me, I'm crazy, crazy, crazy Andy doing crazy fun things. And then we come back to the cause of it.
Yeah.
Per se. Like I said, there's multiple, influences, but that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that sucks. Are you getting help for that?
I mean, I was. I think it's a very weird thing to have a parent figure die at such a young age, because I don't remember that. And this is probably answering the question that you asked earlier too, I probably don't have a conscious thought in my head until about 15, and if I did, I don't remember them. I also don't remember a large quantity of like the thoughts that I've had from 15 to 23. They're just not there. Same with my linear time. It's shot. Like I don't know if that's like a trauma response or if that's like some sort of funky wiring in my brain that allows me to get ready for 5 hours before I need to be somewhere and then still show up late.
I relate so much to everything.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Really not alone.
We're very much in a house that's safe because we fucking do all these same goddamn things.
I appreciate it. So yes, I am moving in, not just for the wonky ass time that we can all just set the clocks like 5 minutes ahead of where they need to be, but also that beautiful fucking stove.
Yeah.
Time, stove. We're good. But it's very weird to have a parental figure die when you're so young. I don't remember him. I have memories associated with things of him, but that's because my mom has told me about them.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not really of him. I mean, so what had happened was he was diagnosed with a glioblastoma when I was 1, and it just degraded until I was 3 and he had died. It was very quick. It was very rapid. I would assume that a lot of the trauma that stems from that is not because... Obviously, there's probably some trauma that stems from that. I'm not denying that. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, that probably contributes to some of it.
Yeah.
My mom ended up being a single mom.
That was one of my next questions was like, did we ever have any sort of male influence, male mentor, male role model, something?
So not for a while. My mom did get remarried. They actually met in a cancer support group because my father, who is definitely my dad, if you met us walking down the street, we are 2 peas in a pod.
That's what I get. I get the sense that you're exactly like your dad.
Yeah. It actually I'll show you a picture of my biological father afterwards. It is terrifying how much I look like him. His name is Andrew James. I'm Andrea Jean. It's a little scary. It's a little freaky. But my mom ended up being a single mom. She got cut off from the entire hillside, so that my dad's last name was Hill, hillside of the family, and her family was in Detroit because she moved out to California to be a school teacher. Never happened. Met my dad, had me. My mom's family definitely does not deal with emotions very well, and I definitely got it from them. My grandmother is in like the same exact as me in all of the regards, where she goes out and does wild, crazy things. She skipped school to be at a movie premiere, ended up getting caught on the front page of the paper. Like, so I see a lot of myself in that, in terms of like, I'm going to choose to do the cool thing. But that also created, I think, generational trauma that my mother is still processing. And I think she's doing a really good job of it for coming from a generation and from a family that never believed in therapy. So it's very conflicting of, I definitely believe in therapy. I've gone to therapy. I definitely believe in like psychology, and I want to take the pills that make my brain not as silly. Whereas talking to my mom for about 5 fucking minutes, I'm ready to chop her fucking head off. 'Cause like, she and I know exactly how to get on each other's nerves. We always have. From 3 to 5, it was just her and I. From 5 to 10, I was fighting against both of them because how dare she marry someone else? It's disgusting. And then she would know exactly where to like push my buttons to like get me riled up. And then from like 10 on, it was, what day are we going to fight on? Because I can feel it coming. So I feel like that is the pinpointable source of trauma, but it definitely stems from my dad is not there anymore.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a 1-2. I don't have that dad. Also, my mom is a copy of me. I am a copy of her. It's tough.
Well, I guess that answers the question. Yes, you're aware of where your trauma comes from.
Shall we go deeper into it?
We can if you'd like. We always like to go deeper into things. But this is some, I mean, obviously it's real, but this is, if I knew you better, right, then I would totally just plow ahead and go deep into things. But wanting to have respect for you, wanting to have,
I appreciate it.
all of those kind of different things. At the end of the day, you get to talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. So what do you want to do? Do you want to keep going deeper into it, or should we transition into some other topics?
I don't know what else I remember specifically associated with my early childhood that I can talk about.
Do you have an understanding of, from my experience, rather than telling you what, I'm getting so much better at that. Oftentimes I'll be like, do you know about this thing? And it's just a way to make myself sound smart.
I appreciate that. That takes a lot of work.
I do
Good
this
job.
to her all the time. I'm like, do you know? Like when you said Krav Maga earlier, I was going to be like, I think I actually did. I'm like, do you know what Krav Maga
You did
is?
ask, but I was just about to clarify because I also know that, I'm just going to get an ass instead of sitting here and I'm like, yeah, that thing. I know what's happening. No, I don't. Please slow down and explain it. Before we go further on that, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Just because I relate to so many things that you are saying.
Yeah.
And so a part of me right now just wants to come out and say, hey, I'm going to ask you this question before we go any deeper on anything. Do you find that you will have moments of where you can be really, really vulnerable, and then after that you're like, I'm fucking out.
Yeah.
I'm gone. Okay.
Absolutely. I would like to say it's a Scorpio in me. I'm a Scorpio in like 4 fucking houses.
That's pretty embedded.
Oh yeah. I would like to say it's because I'm a Scorpio. It's definitely a control mechanic. So this way I don't, if I feel like I can open up to someone, then I either have to get over the fear that they are going to betray me. 2, I have to resign myself to the fact that they will betray me, which I know sounds so like forlorn and very down, but it's anytime anyone knows anything about me, it's gonna come back to bite me in the ass.
I know that feeling.
So, like, I have to figure out, okay, is this person going to respect the fact that they know so much about me? And 2, how the fuck am I going to feel when they finally do fuck me over? Because most of my adult relationships, minus the husband that I have now, as I lovingly refer to him, my first husband, it's been one of someone called me fat on the internet, didn't even have the ability to say to my face, like, hey, I want, like, let's go work out together. Because they are also not adults. And they have, as much as I am all kinds of kooky and funny and definitely traumatized at some points, so is everyone else. And so to let people in like that, I find myself being very reserved so that their funky, mean stuff can't yuck my funky, chill-ass stuff. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure. That's also a defense mechanism. So this way anyone can disagree with me if they don't like what I said.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. So just wanted to be cautious of that, because there's very much those times where I'm like, I'm here, I'm ready. Like I've been panicking about this podcast because I don't know you. I'm scared. You know, I have like so much. It's not because it's you. It's because anybody.
Yeah.
Like it took me a while to get comfortable just recording with him, and then to start bringing people on. I'm like,
well, also it's a huge invasion of like space, because your house is like where you get to be a person without anyone else's judgment, and so having someone else in your house and your space is very fucking disorienting. Like, what if they take my favorite beer? Like, what happens then? Or they drink the rest of my vodka. That has happened, and I fucking hate it every time I do it.
It's you get to have whatever you want. You're fine. You drink the drinks. It's that, and it's my thing. Like you talked earlier about, you know, have this worth and not enough. I'm like, I feel like I'm stupid. I can't carry on a conversation. I have all of these thoughts and emotions that come through, but then when I try to connect my brain to my mouth, I stumble over everything. I say the words wrong. I get lost in my own train of thought.
Yeah.
And I'm just so many ways that I don't fit. Like I don't fit. I would love to be able to like connect with him with jiu-jitsu and going like him and, you know, our son. They go, and I can't do that. And I feel like there's part of me that's like going to get left behind. There's part of me that isn't going to be able to keep up because I can't do that. I can't. There's like the realization of just to put yourself in that situation, even how you were saying, like the type of women that can go to that. I'm like, yeah, the fucking nothing over here. I can't handle the thought of being hit ever again.
Yeah.
I can't go. I can't have somebody pin me down. Like, and I know, you know, there's this thing, well, if you learn how to do this, you won't ever have to worry about it.
But also.
Exactly.
Like, there, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of like trying to figure out where in MMA I find myself. Because like last night, Zach was on top of me, bopping my head and face. I fucking hated that shit.
I couldn't do it.
The only time I got super angry was when he took me out and put me on my back, but he just knocked my feet out from under me and ended up twisting my entire right leg. And that got me. For some reason, that was the pin that was like, all right, we're going to pull that out and launch the grenade. I would like a pat on the back because I did not cry in that moment, but I definitely cried really hard on the way home. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is what makes me cry? Not the 250-pound dude sitting on top of me just bopping my face, like in a loving manner. He's not actually going for it, but that part in my head should freak me out more. But it's this little surprise linchpin of just, surprise, you're on the ground.
Got complete control over you.
Yeah.
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 So I can't do that.
I feel you. I can't paint.
Yeah.
Because what if I make a mistake? I can't paint. Because it'll turn out ugly and it won't be good.
We've done that too.
You guys have so much to talk about.
Do we need to like meditate?
I think so. I don't know. Oh my goodness. Oh
I
my goodness.
forgot. I actually usually wear a visor, like around my neck.
A visor?
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know what that
a
is.
Nordic wayfind, like a guidepost
Okay.
for in like tradition. It's supposed to be a spiritual guidepost to like help find your way in the spiritual waters of life. And there's this great big flowy explanation, and I read about 5 minutes of it on Wikipedia. Found it in Cat and Cauldron, bought it, and have worn it. But I definitely like that for like. So what if I can't paint? I can fight. Like, so what if I can't do X? I can still do J, K, and L.
You got it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the whole alphabet. Just. You're looking
took a
at
drink
me.
at the wrong
I'm
moment.
like, I don't remember where I was going with it. I told you that would happen.
Are you getting help?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love my therapist.
Okay.
He's chill. He's not Mormon.
Nice.
Is that like kosher to say?
Fuck.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, cool. He's not Mormon. I'm so happy.
Yeah. Couldn't do that.
No.
No.
Nope.
What else? I mean, obviously the MMA, the Jiu-Jitsu, all that's super beneficial and helpful as well.
Yeah.
What other coping mechanisms? What other healthy coping mechanisms have you incorporated?
I sew historically accurate 1890s clothing.
What? If like, let's run up a list of what's going to come out of her mouth next.
There's no way.
That one would not. I mean, the list could be 1,000 long, and I wouldn't put that one on there.
It took me a minute to process. I had to like replay it. Like, okay, what was that? Yep. No. Okay, I got it.
You sew historically accurate.
I use a sewing machine. I'm not that patient. I have
You're not
real.
hand-stitching.
I can't. 5 yards of hand stitched hem takes so
It wasn't a judgment.
long. I have to use a sewing machine. But yes, I do really enjoy sewing, and I like sewing my own clothes. I have not been able to make a set of, actually a corset yet. So I've bought them, but like I'll go to work and I like to dress fully accurately 1890s, long skirt, stockings, corset, shirtwaist, jacket, vest, whole 9 yards. I love it. I think it's
That's
like
amazing.
finally I found my style. This is like finally I am in the right era. I would have been a Victorian boxer.
Is there pictures on your social media or
Not
anywhere
on
that
my
I can
social media.
see?
I actually,
You can
as part of my trauma, I go through my social media like every 6 months and delete everything. I fucking hate, especially Facebook. I hate having anything in connection to me that could show me any part of my past life. I have no tagged photos of like any of my time in the circus.
Did you hear us? We both did. In the exact same moment.
That sounds like you have thoughts on that.
That one definitely says something.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's got some. Hold on, some subtle nuances. Yeah,
Trauma,
faint hint of
hating myself. Ooh, yes, I hate my own visage.
the blank periods.
Yes.
So when we go
what?
through and we have periods of time that are blank
I
and we
was like,
can't really recall.
that's not his name, but I got blank.
That we can't recall. Typically speaking, from my experience as well as from my experience of other people, that stems from periods of time that are either kicked off with and or just entrenched. That's a big, beautiful word.
You did
That's a
so
25-cent word.
And I used it correctly too.
Is that
I
rubbing
think-
it in my face because I?
Why would- I'm not rubbing it in your
struggle
face.
at
I would
saying
also-
duck.
I would also really like to know why you said entrenched.
I don't know why that one popped into my brain, but it worked perfectly.
Okay.
Or so we either have a traumatic event that kicks off a blank period, or we have a blank period that is just full of trauma. Hence, it's repetitive, ongoing.
Yeah.
And you referenced big swaths. I mean, basically, essentially, like your entire childhood up until 15, and then also during the time period after. I mean, we've just got a lot of blank periods.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of systemic trauma and or I mean, that would just be my go-to.
I don't want to belittle it because I understand, like, yes, that is probably something that I need to, like, dig deeper One, I don't think I'm ready right now. I would really honestly like to finish my degree. And then you know what? My gap year before I get my PhD, we can do that. I got time. I'll schedule that in there. I just want to get through like my degree right now. But also, oh shit, I forgot what I was going to say. No, it was really good too.
Well, just the awareness of like, you know what? There's definitely more work there, but for the time being, I'm good where I'm at. That's huge alone.
Thank you.
Right. And even just having the awareness of like, yeah, there's some shit I got to fucking go through, but I'm not going to do it right now. And I'm doing enough where I'm at. I think that's huge.
And also, having blank spots does not mean that those things that you can't remember are filled with trauma.
Correct.
Because there have been, there's definitely been things that have come back to me, and I'm like, well, I blocked that out for a reason. Why are you here? Yeah. I don't need to remember that. I don't want to remember that.
Right back to forgetting that.
Yeah, that's not serving a purpose. And then there's stuff that's coming up, that I'm remembering that has been blocked out. It's not trauma, but when you have so much. When you disassociate so much to survive the trauma, it's not like you just like, okay, I'm okay now. Let's pop back in my body. You're still gone.
Okay, so I have a question.
Okay.
When you remember things, like sometimes I will definitely remember something, but it is not a memory. It is a movie scene.
Okay.
Almost. Like I am still actively disassociating through me remembering it. Does that ever happen to you?
That does happen.
Okay.
That happens more regularly than where you're fully remembering it, because I still think that there's part of you that you can't handle it.
Yeah.
So it'll come through, and there's been a lot, especially if I'm talking to somebody about it, because when I decide to be vulnerable, when I decide to go into healing, I'm like, all right, I'm here. I'm saying the things, I'll have things pop up I can remember, but I'm not feeling them.
Yeah.
That comes later for me to be really fucked up and like on the floor in the shower crying.
Yeah.
That's a whole other time.
Because that's where I'm at too, is that if I remember something, it is third person, almost like a little movie vignette that I forgot that I had seen. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that memory got brought up because I listened to a Blink 182 song.
Weird shit.
Weird
All of a sudden
shit.
you're like, there it is.
Okay, great.
Yep.
I've been driving for 5 minutes and I didn't realize that like the road was there.
Right. That happens a lot.
But it's there have been things that I've remembered and then kind of like I'll forget them again because it was such an innocuous moment that it really didn't matter that I remembered that specific thing.
Or it's so much that it still goes away again. Even if you're not fully in it, it will go away again. There's things that I know I'll remember. I don't need to write it down. And then it's gone until the next time it reappears for whatever out of nowhere. Hey, everything's going fine. We're having a good day. Here comes this to fuck everything up. Like, why not? But as time has progressed and I've remembered more, then as of lately, the ones that have been coming in have been the full body memories. Okay. So it's not just the scene. It's now I'm feeling it. And I'm like, there's a reason. I was just giving without the feelings for a while because the full body memories, I guess I'm ready because they're here.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not ready, it's really fucking me up.
It'd be nice if I like felt ready when they just hit me.
Yeah. So it happens, it comes, but just the visual memory and not the full body memory.
Well, that makes me feel better that one, I'm not weird, that I'm like remembering my life through the lens of a movie. It's a really great directed movie.
Do you also get the body memories without the visual? You just like have this like, oh,
yeah.
But you're
a lot of songs do that for me, especially driving because I definitely. So here we go. I drove. I drove
too.
Drove is what you do in Druvania. They drove there.
We're not the only one that tries to implement some humor.
Driving was like a huge coping mechanism, especially after I got my license. So there's albums I cannot listen to anymore, even though I love them. I would love to be able to listen to an album, but I can't because driving through a mountain, listening to a specific album will immediately put me to tears. Can I remember why? No, but it will move me. And it's stupid. I want to listen to the fucking album. And I live in the mountains, so it's not like I can just avoid it. Like, oh, if I don't drive through the mountains, I won't start crying on my way to work.
Nope. You're surrounded.
Yeah.
You've got so many songs you can't listen to.
Yes.
Like there's so many songs that I love playing loudly, and I have to be very conscious because
I'll smash the radio. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I've tried to like,
yeah.
And then I just got to the point where I don't want to hear it. No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. It's okay.
No, good to know I'm not the only
There's
one.
a lot of music out there.
Entire
You can
point
find
of that
something
podcast,
else.
correct?
Right? Exactly. You've actually like not counting the listeners that is going to be out there, but just so many of the things that you have said that are just so matter of fact, and you understand this is where it is. And if you would have had this information, this would have helped. And this is how you're processing. And I'm like, okay.
Do you need to hold hands for a little bit?
I think I do. I think I do. And it's
okay.
just like, that's a thing. I'm not going to let go now.
Okay,
We're
here
just
we
going
go.
to sit here. It's going to be
Yep.
weird. I'm just kidding.
Just gonna have
Thank
a microphone like
right? It's okay.
right
It's
there.
okay. But that is like just that little bit. Like I know that this is what I'm going through, but in my mind, it's not something that, in a sense, is normal and an expected response. This is why I'm broken. And so just having that so clear, and I'm like, okay, if I go talk to a therapist, I know how to clearly communicate this now, because it's so scary just to even go to a therapist. Where do I start? I don't know what's normal. I don't know what's not. I know I'm feeling like crap. I know that this is here. I don't know how to say this, but how do I even communicate my needs so I can receive help when I don't know what the fuck's happening?
One of the things, especially, so when I was getting out of the Army, there was, there's a bunch of these like BetterHelp and a bunch of like web-based therapies that I actually found way more engaging solely because it was text-based. And so you could have like a phone call, you know, the whole shebang. But what I would specifically do is every time I felt a panic attack coming on, I would immediately go in, leave a voice message, be like, I am having this panic attack. This is how I feel. And this way, because, you know, I've tried to go into a therapist's office and I'm like, well, I feel okay now. So nothing in my life is bad. Like if I'm okay in this moment, I'm not going to remember all the bad crap. I don't want to.
How do I pull this
Why
up?
on
Yeah.
earth would I tell you that my life is bad if I'm happy right this second? So I really loved being able to go in and be like, hi, Paige. This is what's happening. This is like the exact thing that's going on. This is why I feel. This is what set it off, which is also, I thought, an awesome thing, because then I wouldn't have to make a note of it and try to feel that feeling again in an office 2 weeks later.
Right?
So I think that was awesome.
That's really good. Like, even if like that just inspired me to even do like little voice recordings, like on your phone, just so you can yourself even analyze it later.
Yeah.
Like, this is what happened. This is what brought it on. Because there's so many, like, just saying that, it's so obvious. This is what brought it on. Now I know where my triggers. That didn't even occur to me to say, this is what brought it on. Like, just so that's, thank you.
Of course. I'm glad that was novel to you.
It was very soft.
I mean, I'm not glad that that's novel to you,
I
but
know
I'm
what you
glad
mean.
that you're going to like implement that, because I like doing that.
I'm like, what can I do for you now? Like, I don't know. How do I give you something back? That was huge for me.
No,
So
it's all good.
thank you.
I get to sit in a very cool room with like lightsaber shit.
You can come cook on our stove if you want.
I'll wear the full on outfit.
Oh, the
Will you?
1890s?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. 100.
That is so cool. Like, I struggle with making a pillowcase, and you say that, I'm like, I don't know how to make a straight line. How do you do that?
Oh, they're not straight lines. Oh no, I never said I made them well. They're really shitty looking, but they're fun.
Oh my goodness. I'm excited to see. I hope you will share pictures, because I really want to see.
Naturally. All
right.
It's very weird to reconcile like all of the 1890s crap, and then I love Star Wars. I have 3 Star Wars tattoos. Like, it's very weird. The list continues to get
What
longer.
are the Star Wars tattoos?
So I have 2 on my feet, 1 on each foot, of Endor, with transport, the comm tower, and then on the other foot,
Baby Endor.
Don't even. You're right, I don't. But I was
Endor
gonna...
was where the Ewoks were from.
Yep.
Oh, I love the Ewoks. How do I not know that?
It's okay.
The Ewoks, my
And then the Death Star, like the second Death Star that's about half completed. circling around the ankle like it's coming around the
cool.
planet, right?
That's really cool.
And then naturally I have the Millennium Falcon on my ass. Those are my 3 Star Wars tattoos. And then I also have some buttholes on my side. They're stars, but they look like buttholes.
Okay. I was like,
They look like buttholes.
Oh no.
It's good.
Oh,
It's good. Like 100%.
do you just like swimsuit or whatever and just be like,
They look like buttholes. They look like redneck bullet holes. Except they look like buttholes in my opinion. Because I told
tiny mice buttholes.
Yeah, little tiny mice
Oh, my
buttholes. Because
goodness.
when I first got them done, they were super red and raised. And so I sent a picture to my friend Lizzie.
oh no.
And she was like, what are those? And I was like, it's the Little Dipper. And she's like, no, those are assholes. Because they were like really red.
So they totally look like. Oh, well, you can work that into another piece. Like you can
Battle
still
cruiser.
have it, and
I want a
there you
battle
go. There you
cruiser
go.
on my side
Just
because
work
I'm
it
not
in.
a big enough fucking nerd.
Oh my gosh. I love it. So why did the Millennial Falcon go on your ass?
Because I
Where
had
else would it go?
I don't know.
If anybody knows anything about Star Wars, it's that Millennium Falcons go on the ass.
Okay, I did not see
Absolutely.
that episode, so I'm curious.
One, I had $100 and I wanted one.
Uh-huh.
2, I had to teach the same day,
Mm-hmm.
so I couldn't have it on any place that would like really get hurt or like really get rubbed, because tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dumb ass decided to go get the tattoo done on my butt, have it covered with plastic wrap, and then go teach for 4 hours directly afterwards.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
How
that's
big
awesome.
is the Falcon? Oh my goodness.
I
For
really
those
want-
just listening, that's like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what size, 4 inches.
Four diameter?
Yeah, 3
maybe?
inches.
Yeah, 5,
Something like that.
That's a big Falcon.
It's a big Falcon. I really want Punch It Chewy, like right next to it. I told my dad, because my dad didn't know that I had gotten tattoos until I got like my feet done, and then I had to come out and be like, okay, Dad, well, I have a tattoo on my ass. He's like, what is it of? I'm like, Millennium Falcon. He's like, are you gonna get the Enterprise on the other cheek? Well, now that you say it, Dad, yeah, I am.
Thank you.
And you know what? There's gonna be a laser battle going on right between it, and that asshole is gonna be an explosion. So you started this. You're getting a picture.
Oh my gosh, I love how witty you are.
Thank you. It's a defense mechanism.
I
as
think
we
you're
fully
winning at life
explained.
regardless.
Thank you.
Regardless, but
Thank you. How funny I am directly correlates to how many points I have.
You know, babe, I've been realizing something lately.
What's that?
Because we go back and forth all the time. We have 4 kids. Asher's
do.
our youngest. You've met Asher.
Yes.
All the other ones are girls. 19. Oh, no, Maddie's only 18. 18, 19, 21.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I think that
Not done yet.
the sigh, is a more accurate.
Yeah, we're not done yet. Asher almost did not survive today, but that's okay. We go back and forth all the time. I have such a hard time with interacting with younger people.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about this generation that, oh gosh, what am I trying to say? So Steph and I come from the whole idea and concept behind, like, you know, each generation. For me, I feel like it is a decade thing. I feel like somewhere within the span of about maybe 5 or 8 years, you typically are generally about the same. So people that for me were I was born in 81. So if you're up into like,
Yeah, we're a little different generations.
we kind of are.
Yeah, you're technically a millennial.
Okay. I love you.
I know. I love that. Like, technically,
I'm rambling, but
it's okay. Millennials tend to do that.
what I was talking to you, shut up. Just the self-awareness that you have and the way that you've been able to move through life at this point, right? It's very, 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 very significantly different than the generation that Stephanie and I come from.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to think that at 26, I would have an understanding. At 26 and 27, I think I was in therapy, or I think I was starting to go to a therapist. And I was starting to grasp some general sense of like, am I bipolar? Do I have something? What is going on? Right. And that was just like the hint in the beginning.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was just all shit show clusterfuck, right? Prior to that, it was like, let's just go ahead and burn the fucking house down around me
Yeah.
and have fun while we're at it.
Yeah.
And then it, even like at 26, 27, 28, and then what am I? I'm going to be 40 in March.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I feel like I have a grasp on things. Finally, I have an understanding of things, right?
Wait till
Yeah.
the next wave hits.
Shut up.
Just a pile on Craig Day.
But that realization of like we look at our daughters,
Mm-hmm.
and even though, because we have a different perspective as parents, right? Our kids are even from a different generation than you.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you, because you're like probably maybe 2 generations behind Steph and I, okay? And you have a better understanding of your emotional, mental, physical health, all of these kind of different things and issues and factors that tend to plague people in life.
Yeah.
And keep us fucked up and keep us from fully fulfilled, joyful, and, you know, incredible lives that we all deserve and have or can have. You're so much further ahead than either of us ever were when we were 26 years old. And I look at our kids.
Like what Stevie's doing.
Yeah.
She's 19, and the amount of healing and awareness that she has and is going through, and she is not afraid to say, this is not okay. What I'm going through is not, I don't have to go, I need help. And to go through and look and be that self-advocate for herself.
Yeah. That's
I'm just
awesome.
like,
Well,
I'm trying to follow her lead. Like, it's so amazing how
I've been starting to look at things a lot differently, even just kind of like in the back subconscious part of my brain. We had some people on the podcast previously to you. That same thing. They were a little bit younger than us, maybe one generation and a half. I've made up this thing in my mind now that I totally understand generations. And
you
for
do.
you guys just listening,
Yeah.
it's
It's
7.5
very clear.
years. That's the time frame that I settled on. So
Okay.
every 7.5 years, we get a new generation on
It's
Earth.
really fucking hard math.
It's super.
It's like
I've-
dog years.
Yeah.
I've gotta
Every dog
calculate
year.
7.5.
Oh,
Dog
excuse
years
me.
are just 7. We added 6 more months to it. Anyways,
I'm corrected.
I'm so fucking happy right now in this moment.
Okay.
I'm so happy and I'm so excited and I'm so grateful that, because I look at like, so our parents, right? Stephanie's parents, love them to death. They're all amazing. Can't live without them. They're all fucking clusterfuck shit shows, right? And they've all done the best that they can over the course of their lives in varying degrees. But barely, I think the majority of them, and they probably argue differently. Fuck them, they're old, right? But they would probably argue that they have a grasp much more on their mental health and emotional health and everything like that, right? But the reality is they're well into their 60s and 70s.
So I have a question.
Okay.
How old are your parents?
That's a good question. They're both in their 60s.
Okay.
60s and 70s on mine. Well,
Yeah.
I guess, 60s and 70s.
My mom is 69 and my dad is in his mid 70s. So there was a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my not biological dad,
Mhm.
but
So how old was your mom? Because I'm not going to try to
Maybe
do
like
the math.
30s, right?
39.
39. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
so that led to a very different approach growing up.
Well, that's the other interesting thing that I think of. Like, I think about, because Steph and I both had kids young, right? My oldest is 21 years old. I say my oldest because we both brought kids to our relationship. Steph and I have been together for almost 10 years, but we had
Congratulations.
previous marriages and previous kids. And I think about, I can connect with my daughters and my son a little, like maybe it's a generational thing with Asher too. Anyways, I think that
Does
having
he
that,
still say yeet?
what's that?
Does he say yeet?
Yeet? No.
Why
No.
EET?
I think I've heard Stevie say
Is that a thing?
That is a thing.
fuck.
I
that
think I've heard
the
Stevie,
youths are doing.
but not Asher. Usually it's like, bro, bro.
This is how Asher
Let me do
communicates. Are
more.
you ready? Hey, are you hungry? No.
That's
What do
me
you
in the
want for
morning.
dinner?
That's first of all rude.
Asher,
Please
you
don't
need to
make
go
a
to school.
caricature of me.
I just think it's so fascinating, and it makes even more sense of the feeling that you have that you're alone and that you're trying to figure everything out by yourself because of that huge gap, just strictly from like the generational standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Your childhood, your upbringing, what you experienced as a child during the time period when you were a kid, your mom has no context for. I barely have some context for what my kids are experiencing.
Right.
I can connect to it a little bit, right? Asher is literally going to the same high school that I went to. He even has some of the same teachers that I have, right? He's walking down the same hallways that I went to.
Yet
He
it's
may have had his
completely
locker
different.
right by me, but it's such a different fucking world.
Yeah.
Whereas your mom trying to raise you, the life that you had as a child, the things that you experienced, she doesn't even have fucking context for,
No.
right?
Not
I mean,
at
your
all.
mom was alive when like we barely switched out of black and white fucking TVs,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, she was in Detroit for the Detroit race riots as a kid.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
yeah.
So that's so huge.
I think
That's
it's really interesting. Sorry, I completely cut you off. What were you going to say?
You did not. I just said that's a big gap, and that was all. So
Okay.
you're good. Please keep going.
I think it's really interesting, especially the generational. I would never have called myself like a latchkey kid because that was definitely a thing in like the 80s and 90s when
Steph and I both were.
yeah, like that was if my mom had had me any sooner, I would have been in your same shoes.
Mhm.
But I think she prescribed that style of parenting to me when we had moved out of that phase of time when that was like socially acceptable or whatever the heck. And so I definitely feel like people, as I meet people, they're always, oh, you're such an old soul. It's like, no, I ended up raising myself in a lot of it. Granted, my mom was there for a lot of it, but if she doesn't connect to me in the same way that I need connection, then I'm doing a lot of that emotional growth by myself. Granted,
It's not a growth, like that emotional clusterfuck,
yeah.
right?
I mean,
That emotional
as a
discovery.
kid, how much can you emotionally grow if you're not done growing physically yet? Your brain doesn't even have those connections yet until you're 25.
Right.
So it's really interesting to see people go, oh, you're an old soul, because I connect better to the generation previous of me, the 7.5 years or whatever the fuck you came up
That's
with.
very accurate. It's science.
It's science.
Okay, it's a science thing. I
Um,
can't help it if I'm scientifical.
oh my god. It just I
You connect
feel
more
like
with
I
that.
connect better with older people because I haven't lived the same amount of time, but I feel like the experiences that I've had in my life have added up to that, and the emotional growing that I did after all of these stupid, fun, crazy, dumbass shit that I've done has added up to I can connect better with older people who have also had the emotional growth that I have. And so like right now we have a friend living with us, Bryce and I. She's 4 to 5 years older. I can't remember off the top of my head, but she has had some of the traumatic events very similar to my own. And so being able to sit down with her, talk, and just have another emotionally growing person who understands where they are has been so helpful. And it's not like my bestie. I don't think my bestie and I could ever like grow together emotionally. We go and we club and we go do cocaine out of belly buttons and shit, dumb shit like that. Like
While trapezing through the air.
while trapezing through the air. Like I want to be 30 feet up and getting bounced around, and that's a good time. It's just there are people that you need to emotionally grow, and I definitely feel like finding the right person to help you with that maybe isn't a therapist has been essential for me.
No, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's really huge.
It kind of sounds like that's what you two did.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much what the two of us
think
did.
so.
Even, unbeknownst to us.
I
right?
knew.
If any of us, if either of us knew,
No.
it was definitely her.
Women always.
Yeah. But that's totally what we did in some way, shape, or form. Don't you think? You're looking at
No.
me like,
No, I'm just looking
not
at you like,
really.
oh, you're cute. I love you. No, I like that perspective of it. Just hearing that, I'm like, that's exactly. We found that.
It's
soul
huge
survival,
to be able to
soul
have
revival.
somebody that you not just can relate with, but somebody that you can communicate freely, like be
Yeah.
yourself around, and not just be yourself like, you know, playful, but like, hey, this is the real part of me that I don't like talking about, and I don't like discussing, and I don't like letting people in and knowing about.
This is my
I've had-
messy side.
Yeah, I've had so few of those relationships over the course of my life, so few of those friends and connections and things like that, and I'm so skeptical of them even when I have them. Like, that's the other thing that I have learned even in the last few years. Like, so I talked about doing a lot of men's work and sitting in a men's group each week. I mean, that's the place where I feel really, really able to tap in and connect emotionally to some of the real raw stuff that I don't like connecting to and feeling and expressing. And I do so with these other guys, and I feel really safe with them. And I really, you know, there's been a handful of them over the years that I've really grown to love. But at the same time, like, for me, love always comes in conjunction with chaos. Love for me always comes with some sort of, it's not free,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so that dynamic, that aspect has played out in some of these relationships that I didn't necessarily not only think that it would, but was like, you know, because so many times you base your friends in this other category than you do with like your family and with your loved ones, right? You have your friends and they almost have this like up on a pedestal kind of category where they're so special and they're so unique, and you can tell them things that you don't tell anybody else, and they see sides of you that you don't ever let anybody else see. And so they kind of have this unique role in our lives. But yet I realized, and this is only within the last few years, I realized that I was falling in love with those guys over the course of time. And it was very much this loving, connected relationship that I was developing with them. And then there was another part of me that was like subconsciously like, oh, well, just go ahead and fuck all this up like we normally do, because we're protecting ourselves from the pain that comes in association with this love.
Yeah.
And there's two ways for me to look at it, where, so that this is clear, rather than I feel like in some way, shape, or form I'm talking, you know, around in circles that isn't really clear.
You're doing really good.
There were 3 men that I started this men's group with. And they were basically kind of like the 3 guys that started coming to it, and they were kind of like the founding members of it. And over the course of time, over the course of like a year and a half, 2 years, in some way, shape, or form, they all stopped coming to group. And those relationships that I had built, that both of us, all 3 of us, right, the relationships that were built dissolved and kind of fell apart. And it fucking devastated me each time it happened with each, because it happened at different times.
Yeah.
And it just devastated me completely and fucked me up in really significant ways. And it was this ongoing process of realizing, I was like, oh my God, not just did I love those guys, but it was totally like the same loving, infatuated feeling of like wanting to spend time with them and wanting to hang out with them. And it was, I very, very much could see and feel the same kind of correlation that I would have about a relationship with a woman that I've had my entire life in some way, shape, or form, right? Where I fall in love with them, and there's this courting period, and there's this connection period, and there's this loving period. And then when we break up, it's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And so love always came at a cost for me. And I feel like I've been rambling quite a bit.
Keep going. You're okay.
But I don't know if I've ever said those words before, like love comes at a cost for me, but that's a real clear distinction, that's the reality of how I feel in association with love. So even like with my parents, right, the original people that I would love and that would love me in return, as well as I have 2 older brothers. I can think about every single love connection there in my family and the cost that love still like the thing I have to pay still in order for that love to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what's fucked up is that's not anybody's fault, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like any one of them are trying to make me pay that. Nobody's standing there. It's not my mom standing there like, motherfucker, if you want my love, it costs $15.
Yeah.
But the fact is, there's still things that it feels like, because it's totally a feeling. Like there's a distinction I mean, the reality is my mom isn't doing anything. My dad, my brothers, nobody's doing anything. But the feeling, right, is very much like I'm paying a price for this love and it will eventually fuck me up. And so I'm thinking about you.
How I disassociate from everybody.
No, I'm thinking about
like,
how I have brought that dynamic within myself and love into our relationship.
Yeah.
And how there's a part of me that's like, because the price that this love, meaning you and me, Steph, I mean, this is the highest price.
I understand.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Like everything else is fucking coins in the fucking couch sofa. This is the highest price. And this is the thing that like, and I feel like the more connection you and I get and the deeper that you and I go.
The more it costs you?
Not necessarily the more it costs, but it's like the more that's at risk.
The more that's a risk. Okay.
Because I don't necessarily, I'm getting all confused now by my thoughts. Because I'm feeling a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm not really getting confused by my thoughts. I'm getting stuck in the middle of going back and forth between my feelings and my thoughts.
My mouth fails at communicating what's going on. It's okay.
But yeah, it's awareness that I want to continue on after the fact and realize how that subconscious ingrained neural pathway of love equals a cost, right? The cost, the ROI of love. I want to look at that more in regards to you and I and how it has influenced the way that I interact and behave in our relationship. And am I able to, in some way, shape, or form, realize that your love is free? I hope to feel that completely one day.
I hope you do too.
Me too. So, Andy, you're
I love this. This is great. Are you kidding me? This is like the first time I've seen an older couple have an honest to God conversation with fucking emotions. It is refreshing.
She's called us old. It's okay.
I'm sorry. One generation older than me.
We're super hip.
You're super hip.
We
You're
know
not
things.
like all the old people are crying. Okay, well, first of all, no.
It's okay.
I really, really appreciate
It's okay.
seeing such an
No.
awesome communication because it does not happen in between my mom and my dad. So this is very freeing for me. Also, if you're gonna say you're cool, you have to say you're a hip mom, like fucking Leslie Knope, whoever plays Amy Poehler in fucking Mean Girls.
I'll take that.
I'm a hip mom. Do you want a drink? Because I'd rather you do it at home than go anywhere else.
Okay, I'm not a hip mom. I don't do that. Like, you're not old enough yet. Don't even.
Oh my god. I want to put something out there.
Yes.
I staunchly did not drink until I was about 23.
You just want this one on record too?
Yeah.
Are you listening?
No, that's
What?
a lie. I celebrated my 21st birthday at Liquid Kitty.
Liquid Kitty.
Yep.
That's not in Utah.
That is not
No,
Utah.
not in Utah.
Not in Utah. They had projections of like 1920 slappers, like burlesque slappers on the... You could hardly see them because it was very dark, but they were there.
They were there.
I have a question, but I have to go pee. But I'm going to ask you the question, and then I'll come back and whether or not you guys are on some other topic.
Okay.
But in your mind, and maybe you have some source of sort of connection or whatever the case may be, but in your mind, what is or would, not what is or would be, but what is one of your past lives?
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a good question.
That's a good question.
Talks amongst yourselves. As I try not to trip.
You did good.
Please don't die.
We're not that freaking old.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's like
like I'm starting to feel
no,
self-conscious.
no. Neither of you are
You're
old.
okay. It's okay.
Neither
Past
of you.
life. That's good.
I don't know.
Yeah. Assuming time is linear, of course, and it's a
Yeah.
past.
Yeah. I mean, I have things. I think what is more indicative of that is that I have things that I strive to be like, and so obviously, if I'm like, I want to be a French legionnaire or something like that, then there are ideals in that idea
Mm-hmm.
that I want to prescribe to, and that's seeing like the best in me and giving it a physical form, of which I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's what I was actually. That's what I would like to have been. Not
Yeah.
a French legionnaire, but like, something along that line.
Tell me how you connected to your 1890s clothing wear, your Victorian era.
I
How did
actually watched a YouTube video.
that? Okay.
Bernadette Banner does really great historical sewing
Yeah.
YouTubes. And so I fell in love. It seemed so peaceful. I loved the way it looked. And as soon as I figured out that I could do that, I put it on and I was like, yeah, this is absolutely what I need to look like every single day of my life. I'm very thankful that my husband is not like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you dressing like an 1890s librarian? Because that's what I look like as a librarian all the time.
Yeah.
And so, or like 1920s Evie
Yeah.
from The Mummy.
Oh God. Yeah.
Oh my God.
She affected a lot of people.
She is.
Yeah.
Was that the past life?
No. So
it was like connecting to different times and seeing what that
Yeah.
connection was to see if there was correlation. But Evie was pretty.
Evie is great.
I don't know who Edie is.
From
Evie
The
from The
Mummy?
Mummy?
Sorry.
She's the
Brendan Fraser. You
I'm
are
familiar
telling me
with Brendan Fraser. I'm
the gorgeous
familiar with
woman.
all of them.
The gorgeous woman.
Okay.
the woman with the drawn-on eyebrows,
Okay.
straight across pencil.
From the original Mummy.
Yeah.
I think it was like Rachel Weisz or something. Yeah.
She's amazing. She's
Okay.
beautiful.
Okay,
Don't just say
that's
it's.
what I'm
I mean, she is amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
she still is. Yeah, she's a great actress. She's going to be on the podcast next week.
at. You're like, she's not. But we know
don't
if we
know
ever
that.
have her that you are invited.
Thank
I
you.
saw that reaction. Yes.
I will show up whether you want me to or
You're
not.
like, I'm just cooking.
I'm
Let's
yeah.
do it. I love that you loved the stove and that's what drew your attention. That was like the thing that I did not want the house for that stove. I was so afraid I was going to kill everybody. I was so afraid. I'm a bad cook. And then you put fire. I'm like, this is fine. It's a good combination. It's fine. It'll be
You're
fine.
a great cook. Nothing wrong with your cooking.
All my stuff is well done. You will never have to worry about anything being undercooked.
Love it.
Yes, it is.
Chicken.
It is.
Chicken and fish.
Asher he's like, do you think you could have Craig show you so it cannot be so dry? Like, no, I love it, but it's like if it just could not be so dry. It's fine.
I love cooking.
Yeah. Thank
I'm a hell of a
God.
cook.
Thank God.
So, Andy, we're going to wrap up because
Okay.
I think you have to go to class or you want to go to class tonight. And I don't want you to miss that if you want to go.
Are they actually fighting tonight?
It's just sparring. So it's all the people that fight. So all the people like Zach and, oh my goodness, I can't think of everybody. Boomer, everybody else that like actually fights.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like the one
I
Kieran's
thought
gonna
it was
fight.
like. I thought it was actually like a sparring thing that you were gonna go watch.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No. I think it's it's fight camp in a sense. So
Yeah.
it's
No. So I'm not going to that.
it's more in depth
My foot
sparring
really
fighting.
fucking hurts.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, what kind of injuries do you have from good old jiu-jitsu? First off, one of I was going to call you Andrea.
It's okay.
One of Andy's best moves and favorite moves are elbows in really shitty places
Yeah.
Yeah.
that are very, very uncomfortable. But I always come home and sit there and whine for honestly, for days afterwards. I woke up this morning, could hardly fucking move. But Steph is always like, I've got, everything
yeah.
everywhere from all sorts of different things. And
I bruise really easily, so like I have some really good ones.
Yeah,
over
you
there.
do.
Yeah. Right now, my foot hurts really bad because I dropped onto it because Zach went cha in like a judo chop bullshit move. And my right shin is not feeling. Excuse me.
It's okay.
Not feeling great. So that entire leg is just like, I'm done for a little, like 2 or 3 days. Give me 2 or 3 days. That's why I was wondering if it was actually like if I had to participate or if I could just like go and
just watch for
I know,
sure.
That's a little weird. I don't particularly like any of them that much.
Just sit
So.
there
Good
eating
job.
popcorn. What are you guys doing?
What you doing?
What kind of questions do you have for Steph and I? You have better understanding of who we are. Some of the stuff maybe that's come up that you've wanted to. This has been wonderful, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Like totally wonderful and amazing. But do you have any questions for us?
It's okay.
I mean, like I feel really bad, but like I really enjoy listening to you guys talk to each other because that's always nice. I love healthy communication, and it's so nice to hear. But like, yeah, I can't think of any unless there's something that you want me to ask.
No, not at
Okay.
all.
Did you not give her the list of questions?
I forgot.
You didn't email them?
I know,
to
I
me?
forgot.
Rude.
The PDF wouldn't load. It was a whole thing.
I don't want to hear that, millennial.
I'm the one that has to figure out everything about your electronics
I
for
know,
you.
it's bad. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what this thing's doing now.
Fix
Oh
it,
my
please.
gosh.
Fix it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I just like hand it over to him like,
Bryce is younger than me, so therefore he is the one. He's like the resident techie. So I'm like, here you go.
How much younger is he?
2 years.
That's not bad.
No, but he's old. He's 24. He's a 24-year-old white male.
What are we going to do with him?
I'm gonna act like that doesn't have a response, but it has a response.
I love him so much. He's so cute. He gets into a health phase every 6 months. And so right now we're in a health phase. And so he's blending together his veggies to drink them. And he makes me a smoothie in the morning. And I also get fish oil and iron. And then he tracks my calories for me.
I don't know what to think of that.
It's great because I don't have to think about it.
Okay.
I'm down. We had a conversation.
Okay.
It was very healthily communicated. Like,
Okay.
hey, if I'm overstepping, you need a cheat day. Like, just fucking smack me or something. Obviously, I'm not
That
going to
doesn't
smack
sound so
him.
healthy.
I'm not going to smack him, but like, you know, I'm going to pre-make chicken. So this way you can take a cup of chicken if you want. I'm going to make enough for both of us. And then this way, all you have to do is like log the cup of chicken, put whatever sauce you want on it. And then it's easier for you to track your food because, you know, I'm constantly not perfect enough for anything. So the whole female always needing to be skinny thing is real tough for me. So he ended up doing all that. And it's been nice, but I know as soon as he has a Whopper, we're going to be right back to Doritos. Like, I know that it's going to last for about 2 months. And then I get another fucking Big Mac. So I just got to tough it out for 2 months.
You're right.
It's nice. Like, you know, I lost like a little bit of weight, but I get Arby's soon, so.
Now I'm thinking about poppers. Their
I
poppers and
really-
Bronco berry sauce is the best.
I want fried pickles
Oh,
so badly. Is like fried pickles a thing in Utah?
Kinda.
yeah. There's,
There's
a
a
couple
handful
of
of
places.
places.
Fried pickles are the best thing that I have ever put in my mouth.
Yeah.
Out of anything.
What is? We went to a place. Where was the bar that we went to? That was the restaurant bar, and it
This
was
is a
with.
fun game. Are you ready, Andy?
I
This
love
is
it.
only going to take
Because
the
this
next
is also
20
what I
minutes.
do with Bryce.
I think it was the first place.
I know
we-
exactly what you're talking about. That was all you needed right there.
Okay, cool. What
Yeah,
is it? What was that place called?
The bar downtown. That's the name of it.
Oh, it really is called that, isn't it?
No, it's not called the
No,
bar
well, there was
downtown.
something about that. No, I don't fucking know.
They had delicious fried pickles there, though.
Ooh.
that you'll never get to know. Apparently,
I'd have to go and look at the map.
I think we could.
That's
you
not
could.
super important. Kate, go ahead. I'll find it.
Anyways, they have good fried pickles. So when
Good
you're
to
ready
know.
for that, we're just gonna like drop a pin and be like, let's go.
Yeah. Good. Good.
Don't wait on me. It's going to
Oh,
take a
sorry.
minute.
Oh.
Okay.
This phone of mine.
We never even talked about my paleontology.
I know there's
that was like the
that's
whole thing we were gonna.
not just your paleontology.
You're just gonna have to come back.
That's the whole thing
darn.
is like you're
Okay.
going to have to come back because I want to talk about that stuff, and that stuff is also interesting. But it turns
Mentioned
out
you also did some work with like PTSD, and like I was very interested in that.
I
so
actually just finished 2 presentations for the National Conference of Undergraduate Research and the Utah Conference for Undergraduate Research
Damn.
with the research that I've done. So
that's amazing. I
that's
want to hear
just a
all about
teaser.
that.
You don't get to hear it today because Craig said no.
You have to come back. You have to. Let's just put it on the calendar right now because I want to hear all of that. I want to hear all of that.
That's like my special interest.
Yeah.
I will talk
Yeah.
for ages. You will get really sick of
I don't think so.
like veteran PTSD, ethnographic, cross-cultural research.
so I have
wanna
this
hear it.
belief.
Okay.
I have not fucking found it, and we will be
Okay.
here for another 40 minutes
Okay.
without me being able to find that. It's a bar downtown. It's delicious. Go. They've got great fried pickles.
I'll find it. Keep going.
You're not gonna find it.
Don't doubt me.
Yeah, first
Go.
of all, a woman with an iPhone can find fucking anything.
I have a belief that everybody has some form of mental illness.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, I mean, I think the whole idea that we have to shift and change that the mindset isn't everybody is damaged, broken, has some form of mental illness. The reality is that is just being human, and everybody is human. And the person that somehow would not have anything is the abnormal, weird fucking alien from another planet. Let's have it real quick.
Whiskey Street Cocktails and Dining. Or
Whiskey
Diner.
Street.
Whiskey Street. Thanks, babe.
You're
Delicious fried
welcome.
pickles.
Was that me that I wasn't gonna find it? Do you want pictures of proof? Because
This
that's
episode,
totally it.
this episode is brought to you by Whiskey Street Cocktails and Dining.
Doubt me.
But that's the whole thing, right? It's not the abnormal person that has some PTSD, that has some anxiety, that has some depression, that is bipolar, that has panic attacks. That's not the abnormal person. That's the normal person.
Yeah.
Life today in this planet, in this world that we live in, exhibits copious amounts of trauma for all of us to experience across the board, regardless of how you were brought up, where you were born, what your life experience is. You agree?
Yes, because why wouldn't a gelatinous 3-pound cube of Jell-O shocked by electricity be fucking weird sometimes? Like, it's so like. I mean, your brain is
Okay, I was like,
yeah. It's very gelatinous. It
Okay.
gets shocked by electricity. It's gonna be weird.
It's gonna be weird. Okay,
It's gonna be weird, and it's so freaking divergent with how we've like. I strongly believe in evolution. I really hope that isn't like a contentious thought here.
This episode is
deny
going in the
evolution,
garbage.
Okay.
So
We're definitely
no.
never talking to you
Cool.
again.
Great.
'Cause clearly that's false.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fake news.
Fake news. Well, the Facebook told me it was fake news, but you shouldn't trust everything you hear on the internet.
Oh my goodness.
So that brain evolving, getting shocked by electricity.
It's so weird. At what point wouldn't it go just a little bit funky, and then that little bit funky just branches? At any one given moment, you are introducing thousands upon millions of different ways to create neural pathways in the brain. So why is there a typical?
Right?
Why? There shouldn't be a typical. There is no neurotypical.
I think we created normal
Yeah,
as a form of safety.
exactly.
So for
And
me,
I agree with that heavily.
Yeah, I always, not always with every single thing, but oftentimes when we get into some of these conversations and some of this space, I always try to look at human behavior and why. And I try to go back to, because I too believe in evolution, and there has to be an evolutionary reason for it, right? It has to be a way for us to perpetuate the human race, to continue on as a species. There's a reason why we do the things that we do even today. So this idea that we have created the normal, the thing that is normal, I think it is directly correlated to safety, right? And I think that if you think about, like, I always think about myself in the cave. I always like instantly transport my brain to this caveman. He's definitely got a cave woman. He looks just like Stephanie.
He looks just like Stephanie.
I'm sorry, she looks just like Stephanie.
I was just
She's
trying
a
to
little
see
man.
What,
like,
what's my role?
she's a cave woman.
Well,
She's
I
got
have
way
dark
more
hair,
hair.
so that means I'm hairy. So okay, It's a thing.
But I go back there and I think, what would that person need? Like, what would be normal for that person, right? At some point, their normal was trauma because of life, right? Food, fight or flight constantly, but they didn't realize that. So the fact that they were always, do you know what I mean, living that subsistence-based life where they're hunting and they're gathering and they're doing all of those different things, that would just be normal, right? But that's trauma. That's a traumatic state of mind. That's a fight or flight response. But it's probably not if that's your normal. That's just existence. So at some point, something happened, like in our evolutionary thing, where suddenly we started to feel safe. So we no longer had to be afraid of the dark. We no longer had to worry about, the saber-toothed tiger or whatever the case may be, because we had fire, or we had more of us, or we had spears, whatever the case may be. But somewhere along the line, we felt safe. So then our normal started to shift and change and evolve. And so then in our mind, we had safety, but the reality is we never really did. And our bodies never caught up to that mindset. So our brains created a sense of safety when our bodies stayed in this space of trauma and the space of fight or flight. And so now today we still carry over this thing of like what normal is, because that's how we feel safe. If my neighbor's like me, then I'm safe, right?
Yeah.
But if I sit here and think that my neighbor's a fucking serial killer, suddenly I'm not fucking safe.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm afraid every time I leave my fucking house, right? If we're surrounded by fucking Trumpers and everybody's got their fucking, ARs under their fucking beds, suddenly I'm not safe. But if we normalize everything and create this sense of safety, then it allows us to feel safe, which then perpetuates that safe feeling. But then we have all of these other issues. Like I said, our bodies never caught up with the evolutionary aspect that our brains created this sense of safety. And in reality, we're not safe, right? We're really not, but that's okay. That's a normal thing.
It's a normal thing. But then when you have all that on top of it, and then you add combat, you add abuse, you add rape, you add
alive, being alive.
So you add being alive.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's not affected by it in one way, shape, or form to the other. I just said in one way, shape, or form. That's your tagline. It came out. We are morphing. Okay.
We're definitely blending into the same person. Steph Craig.
So I have thoughts.
Okay.
Yes. There is actually a very prevalent theory that neurodivergent people were a lot more common than anyone has ever recorded, because they were evolutionarily adapted to be more present, more mindful of their immediate surroundings, and able to focus on tasks differently. So there's a huge paleoanthropologic theory that says autism evolved to be a pro in the community. Mm-hmm. It was never a bad thing, because if fucking Johnny wants to go out and spend all his time with the fucking sheep and he knows every single goddamn thing about those sheep, that's only a good thing to the community. If the caveman has ADHD,
task oriented, but able to take in a million different things at once for immediate environmental changes. And so hypo, can't stop, moving around, can't sit still.
Nope. You are always doing something. You're making a basket. You're fucking chipping a rock. You're doing some sort of cave art. If you have a downtime, you're learning how to make fire better. If you have that downtime, you're inventive. You're not just doing something repetitively. You want to do something repetitively but better. Mm-hmm. So here's that ADHD coming in and going, well, I can go from Oldowan technology, which is the earliest, and that ADHD is going to take me all the way to like Herculean technology, which is stage 5 that you start finding in like paleo communities in France. And it's I love that like normal, I agree that like normal is safe. Normal is very safe. But there's a huge community of not normal, and that's who got us where we are today.
I was going to say, what if that's the driver of evolution, right? That's the driver of the species, right?
I honestly think so, because weird people walk on their feet. Safe people stay in trees and sprint between the trees. I mean, there's this huge thing about as Africa started to dry up, there was less water for trees. There were refuges, which are the spaces that have trees, started to have more space. You completely destroy the natural resources in one space, but you shit there, so basically you're planting more trees. You have to sprint across. Well, the dumb ones are going to sprint on all fours. The smart ones are going to do something stupid and walk on 2 feet so they can see predators, so they can carry their babies. Who knows? I mean, that's still a huge question in paleoarchaeology, but like the stupid ones.
Well, it makes sense, right? Eventually, I want to see above the grass.
Exactly.
So I'm going to fucking stand up.
Exactly. So the weird ones have driven
Everything.
So when did it shift? When did the survivors and the thrivers and the allowing us to survive, when did they turn? When did the perception of them turn?
I don't think it turned at all. I think the reality is that we are all the weird fucking weird ones. But it's the mindset and it's the belief. It's the intellectual brain that tends to think that I'm not fucked up, right? Oftentimes, if you think about your mental health and you think directly about your anxiety or whatever else we want to label or whatever else we want to call, typically it's a physical body response. It's your gut speaking, and then it's your brain that's like, fuck that, ain't paying attention to that. It's your brain that ignores it and doesn't want to look at it.
Well, that's just because of what society has taught us that we need to
That's what
ignore.
I'm saying.
So it still goes back to when did it turn?
So I feel like the definite shift is when we started having organized, like Babylonian
No, I don't know what that is. I'm
so
sorry.
Early
Andy, you're
Mesoamerican.
clearly smarter than we are. Okay?
Yes.
We're dumb old people. So Babylonian what the fuck is that?
Mesopotamia, the cradle of life, the Euphrates and the Tigris River.
Would I ask
let her go.
rivers.
Let's let her go.
Ask you
Let's
a
just-
definition
she
of a
might
word.
get there.
Don't
She
give
might
me
get-
15 other fucking
We
words I
might
don't
get it.
know.
We might get it. Just hold on.
Tigris and the Euphrates River meet, and there's a cradle of life, basically, where these first cities appeared. These are the cities that coalesced people. They were able to create a food storage that was high enough to allow people to get food on a daily basis instead of solely hunting and gathering. It was subsistence farming, which is, taking only what you need from the farms that you've created instead of going out and hunting every single thing you eat. Obviously, they're still going to do that. They want a piece of game. Everyone wants a steak once in a while. But to have that number of people, there is created a hierarchical system to control. And so this system of control is always going to have the head that speaks for the entire people that creates the normal.
Okay.
The normal is, hey, you need to be able to solely abide by what's going on within these walls. Okay, that's great, but if you have a panic attack and you run out in the middle of spinning a clay wheel or something, that's not quote unquote normal. That's not productive. That's not what the person who wants the most productivity needs out of you.
Okay.
And that's what I think.
So the normal in your mind was created for control.
Was it for control or maybe by control?
I think the normal in my head, at least, and obviously this is me reciting facts that I've read out of books that I don't think a lot of people have, I'm sure there's theory on it somewhere. I'm pretty sure there's this book by some dude named Marx. I think normal is a very, one, you said it, normal is a very safe spot. If everyone can make a wheel, if everyone can make a clay pot, and no one is really having a hard time with that, that means...
Well, even if we just all agree that we're going to agree, right?
Exactly.
If we all agree that this is the thing that we do, right?
Yeah.
We on Tuesdays, you go to you go down to the river and you get the water. And then on Wednesdays, we go down to the river and we get the water. Next, we've created some sense of community and safety and structure that gives us that sense of safety, right? And then the more of us together, the more safe we feel because we can protect ourselves, feed ourselves, take care of ourselves, flourish as a community.
And I feel like somewhere in the building of a community, we got normal out of everyone has to do the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
That level of predictability, which I don't think is neurotypical at all. I think the unpredictability of emotions and feelings and bodily changes should be the normal, quote unquote. And so
I wonder if it's like, because they talk a lot about, I don't remember the guy's name, and I believe the book is called Tribe. Is that the name of the book?
I think so. I know who you're talking about.
Anyways, it talks a lot about early man and the way that we flourished in these small tribal communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And are you good?
I'm good. I'm trying to think of a term that I just remembered that is behavioral ecology.
One of your super fucking fancy words.
I want to say it's like spontaneous order. It's like there's no real reason for it, but order,
it just happens.
Order is created out of chaos because it individually benefits everyone in, like, driving on the right side of the road.
Exactly.
You don't have to, but everyone has agreed that it's safest. So now we have laws surrounding it.
Yeah. We
have a water schedule. No one said that that's what we're forced to do, but it's what works for all of us, and it keeps everyone safe.
You know, I actually believe that that's probably the way that it came up, right?
Yeah.
I think that thank you for finding the book, babe. It's Tribe by Sebastian Junger. And I'm going to get back to that thought.
Okay.
But I bet
also,
you it is
we
that
need to trade phone numbers.
Yes.
the chaos thing of like, it just happened that way, right?
Yeah.
It's not like there was suddenly some super smart chief guy that was like, hey, motherfuckers, we're going to structure and order things this way. Because the way evolution works, or did work, or is continually working, right, is it's like you don't really realize it's happening because it takes so long. So I think it probably was chaos creating it, right? Maybe I went to do the thing, and when I showed up, you were there. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm not doing the thing today, and then I do it the next day, or whatever the case may be.
My favorite theory about evolution is that you create the best with what you have, but only at that moment. And so, like with, take fucking slugs. There's only a generation of slugs that can, like, come together. There's no way that they know what genes are best for the next generation. They can only do the best they have with what they have right now. And I definitely feel like humans are the same way, where I have no clue what genes I need to pass down. Like, maybe it's fucking shitty ass eyesight so that they can get a Google lens implanted in their eye in 2050. Who knows? But the genes that I have now that I know will be good to quote unquote pass down, be it emotional thought, maybe they're not even genes, it's just my social theories. I have to pass those down so that the next generation can choose from the most amount of good things that I learned. And I think that when we reach back into history and we take a look at the earliest, people who created this settlement, they didn't realize what they were setting up. They could only do what was best for them at that moment, which meant you got to live closer together because there's going to be another tribe that's raiding us. We have to sleep within a certain radius of the fire because that is the safest, or else a lion is going to come grab us.
Yeah, we put the babies in the middle.
Exactly. And so it's not really about, like, I'm going to look into the future and see what I need. It's what do I have right now in my hands and make the best of it. And I like that particular theory for behavioral ecology. I got a D in that class, though, so who knows?
I was like, that also takes so much pressure off of perfection and what you should do. You're like, this is what I have. This is what I have. Why am I trying to work with what I don't have? This is what I have. Let's go.
Right? It feels like it's so much less daunting to just go for something if you're like, okay, well, I have this, this, and this. I can't make a fucking salmon fillet if I don't have any goddamn salmon, but I have steak in the fridge. So why am I not going for the steak? Like, I only have the things that I can go for. Oh.
I love that. No, that was, yes. I love that perspective.
So
That
we're
is
gonna
like
we're
that
gonna
spring.
trade numbers
Yes, we
later,
are.
and
That's
then
fair.
I'm gonna get super drunk, and we're just gonna have a behavioral ecology drunk talk. It's all good.
Do you think there was
Expectations
anything?
low for me, okay?
Do you think there was anything that came in and interfered in a sense or contributed to our evolution? Because there is this big blank spot where we go from one to the other, like where we go from the missing link from where we were apes in the trees and to where we are today. Do you think that anything came in and contributed to that?
Do you want my like for realsies?
No, I want you to lie.
Okay.
I don't want any truth. Of course.
I think that this missing link has been blown out of fucking proportion.
Okay.
So one, we have Ardipithecus ramidus. Great little guy.
What? I told you, low expectations.
He's on the
for
podcast in 2 weeks.
Ardipithecus. If you can get Ardipithecus ramidus here, I am here
I
because
don't think
I
I'm
have some questions.
ever going to be able to say that.
He's short. I mean, they're super short. They have a really small brain size. They have a super tiny little brain case, but they started to move in the same way that maybe would lead to 2 feet.
Okay.
And then you start to get to like
So you're just following the like evolutionary chart right now is what okay.
Yeah, so and I mean this is a tree, so it branches off and it's a whole tree that instead of Ardipithecus ramidus, Homo ergaster, Homo neanderthalis, Homo sapiens, like that's not a straight line. It's Ardipithecus ramidus is over here, here's Neanderthals over here, and there's a bunch of different branches.
Okay.
And
I've
just
never
sex. Crazy sex between everything.
Bunch of fucking sex.
Okay, I've only seen that like linear line of like this is how it happened. So
Not even close. And I'm gonna send you pictures. It's so exciting. The missing link, I mean, we know Homo ergaster started using tools. They weren't really human, but they had tools. They could get farther out of Africa than, you know, Ardipithecus ramidus or Lucy. Of course, I'm blanking on the scientific name for Lucy. Who was
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson. Yeah, I loved that movie. That movie was a great movie.
That's her. That's the scientific name.
But this, like, we know where we come from. It's a really funny little bit of this is the highest population that we've ever had. So how it's not so much when did the mentality shift, it's when did the population shift to be so centralized, to be so absolutely I see the same look. You're getting the same look that I got when I was like, ooh, fossils.
Well, I beg to differ that this is the highest population that we've had.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really do.
Okay.
I think it's naive to think that this is the highest population that we've ever had. Is this the highest population that can exist on this planet?
Okay.
It's not, right? This planet can sustain way more life. This planet has sustained more life than we have today. So it's naive to think that just because we have 8 billion people on this planet, that that's the highest population of people, of Homo sapiens, of walking, talking, standing up fucking apes that have existed on this planet before. Because this planet can sustain way more life and has the capacity to do so.
Are we talking about a theoretical where everyone is able to support that number? Or are we talking about current consumption?
Well,
because I'm very confused.
One of the things that I've picked up by listening to you talk for the last 2 hours, or potentially 2 hours.
I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
2 hours.
Oh, fuck. Don't be sorry, Andy. This is great. Don't be sorry at all. I'm excited that you're here. I was excited when you started talking that day in class. I'm like, you know what? She probably needs to come on the podcast. So I'm very, very grateful that you came on the podcast. Listening to you, I've realized that a lot of what you're basing, and it's no judgment by any means, but you have all of this science, you have all of this study and book learning, and it's wonderful, right? I'm not minimizing it in any way, shape, or form. I don't. I have a high school diploma, okay? I graduated from high school. My high school is 1.5 miles down the road from where I currently am sitting, so I don't have any of that stuff. I just got a bunch of shit that I pulled out of my ass, okay?
Love it.
But it's based off of like shit that I've thought a lot about, things that I've looked at in different ways, things that I've read about, listened, heard, all these kind of different things, right? And in my mind, it makes total sense to me that our society as we see it today is not the first time that we've been here. Meaning not in some crazy metaphysical way, but just in this simple, like if we just look at straight linear time, which I don't think time is linear in any way, shape, or form, but I think that it makes perfect sense to me that there could have potentially been an even greater civilization and a higher intelligence than we even are today on this planet at some point in our past. And the reason why we don't see it, the reason why we don't have, fossils, or the reason why we don't have any information about it or anything like that is because it's gone. One of the great things that this planet does is just continually recycle and rebuild. And so it's not hard for me to imagine that all of that evidence, all of that stuff, I mean, if an asteroid hit tomorrow, it wouldn't take very long until a lot of us were dead and or gone. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, we're back to sticks and stones and fire. And all the advances that we've made in technology, right, are gone. All the information that we're storing today isn't in books, right? It's online. It's stored in these databases, and it's all this electronic stuff. If suddenly we don't have the ability to power any of that electronic stuff, and all of that shit is biodegradable, and essentially everything is biodegradable at some point, it makes perfect sense to me that that civilization and evidence of that previous or previous's civilizations is just simply fucking gone. So the idea that we are like the greatest thing that has ever happened to this planet in the sense of evolution and mankind and Homo sapiens, I think is silly. Because I also think another aspect of evolution is it doesn't take as long as we think it does. So oftentimes it's like it takes millions of years for us to get from a fucking toadstool to a fucking frog. I just spit on you, sorry.
It's okay.
I don't think it takes that long. I think evolution happens much, much, much quicker than we think it does. And the evidence that the thing that I'm pulling out of my ass for that is what we've talked about tonight, in the sense of you're a generation behind us and you're more emotionally evolved than we are. And a generation behind you, our daughters, are more emotionally evolved than you are. Asher, even though he sure as shit don't fucking seem like it today, is somehow more emotionally evolved than we are. So I think evolution happens far quicker than we really think it does. And we have made it too small. We have kept it in this box to think that it takes millions of years because of what we can prove and show and all these kind of different things.
It doesn't. Okay, so I rambled. I am going to do something that I don't usually do. I'm going to stick up for myself.
Do it. Did we insult you?
No.
Okay.
I just know that something is true, and I'm going to stick up for myself. And I would love if you would like a list of sources afterwards. Because
this episode will have a really long bibliography.
It honestly fucking will. And if you give me about 24 hours, I can and will write a dissertation on it. Evolution doesn't take as long as I think you think it takes. Okay. At all. And that has been scientifically proven. I pinky promise. And I will send you links later. So this way, if you would like to read them, they're absolutely available for you. 2, this is not the greatest thing that this earth, like, humans are fucking shitty. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, no, there's no way that we are the greatest thing. We are an adaptation that has been able to break ourselves off from we've been able to break ourselves off from thinking that we are natural. We have been able to disconnect ourselves from the fact that we came from apes. I mean, not from apes, like that wasn't the line, but somewhere along our evolutionary line, we branched off from pan troglodyte, which is chimps, and have co-evolved so that we're 98% chimp DNA kind of thing, which took, again, a lot less time than I think.
How long? How long to go from chimp to us, you think? And this isn't
400,000 years.
400,000 years.
Yeah, I would say that only because I don't have dates in front of me, and I would love to have a better answer for you, but I don't want to pull up my phone and be an asshole in the middle of this to like cite my sources with papers. But yeah,
that
like,
bar was very important to get the name of at that moment. So I don't think I was an asshole for pulling out my phone. I feel like it was critical information.
Critical. It was extremely important. And also, I completely agree with you. Everything is biodegradable at this point. And if an asteroid comes and wipes out, we absolutely are probably going to evolve humans again, as long as we have the right amount of time before the sun explodes. Who fucking knows? Maybe we get to fucking Mars before that. I don't know. There's no way for me to know. But the geological record is incredibly strong and incredibly well tested. I mean, they have potassium argon dating, they have carbon dating, they have a bunch of awesome shit that took out, like, and I'm gonna be a fucking feminist here. Took women ages upon ages to fucking realize, test, and produce, and then have men steal it. And those tests have proved amazing results with the age of certain rocks, seeing exactly how in the Earth's layers, I mean, you can look through the Earth's layers to like see a geological timescape. Granted, were things around that got destroyed? Probably. We are never going to have the whole Earth history record. I wish so hard that a dinosaur had Instagram. Like, it would be so cool, but we'll never know. But the data that's getting produced by looking at the geological record, dendrochronology, is an awesome way for looking at environments. Because trees suck in so much important data from the air that you can tell when a fire happened, when the tree was sick, when other trees in the forest were sick. There's so much cool science that absolutely backs up a large quantity of the publishing, and it really sucks because I feel like so much of this information is such a classist thing that like not. It's classist in the fact that you have to have, you have to go to school to start learning about this shit. It's classist in the fact that I've had to email so many fucking professors to get their research papers because the publishing paywall, like, I don't have the money. I don't have $97 for one research article, but I can't email a professor, but who's going to think of that?
I've just recently seen where that's a thing where people are actually saying just email the people and ask them. They're going to be happy to give you the information.
Because those publishing paywalls don't actually pay the authors. They only pay themselves. So I have multiple thoughts about that.
Hold on.
Okay.
God damn it. It was a good thought.
I have thoughts too.
Oh, please, by all means.
Did you get your good thought?
It's
We're cutting people off.
neither here nor there. Go ahead.
Is it there?
It's not here.
Where? Say your thought.
It's long. Go ahead.
So is mine.
Well,
I'll wait for you to get going, and then I'm going to cut you off.
Now?
Mine's longer. I'll wait till you're like almost there. And then
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I have like a different, like, I don't know that I don't necessarily agree with Craig on that. I feel like that is a possibility.
That's it. We're done.
Hold on. I feel like it's a possibility, but I also come from a background where things are absolute. Like, this is the way it is. This is the way you're going to do it. I come from a very absolute background, and my mind has been the last decade expanding out of the absolutes. And so I don't know that that's possible, but I don't know that it isn't either, because every single aspect of our history, every scientist that is out there coming up with their new theories is nothing but a guess. And every absolute, every controlled experiment that they do is based on the controlled environment that they have at that time. And it is an absolute because they cannot create something different until somebody comes along and creates a new theory, until it's a new thing. And then the absolute is now shifted. And isn't it called like the theory of evolution, which is a guess? It's all a guess.
I definitely agree with you in that, like, there is no way to know. As soon as Newton invented gravity, gravity was a thing, but before that, things still fell to the ground. So like, there's always going to be someone who wants to rationalize the world and someone who wants to put it in categories, and then there's always going to be people who are going to push those categories farther. I don't think one or the other is inherently wrong. I don't think one or the other is inherently right.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love so much about science is that everything that we knew from the 30s has pretty much been proven wrong. But in the 30s, that was absolute. That was absolute the right thing to do. So when I'm reading, so I'm studying archaeology, anthropology, and history at the University of Utah. I consume a huge amount of history papers, too many to be in fact. I'm about to explode my brain with how much history I'm reading and how much archaeology I'm reading. I can't wait in 30 years to go back and go, wow, I was wrong about that because we found a better way to explain it. It's just at the time, like as of right now, that is the best way that we have. It's like what is that, Occam's razor or something like that, where it's the simplest way to explain something is usually the way that it's happened. I kind of like that in terms of just, okay, this is what we can read. This is what we can find out from different tests that
How safe is that, Andy? That's pretty fucking safe, right?
It's pretty fucking safe, but I think
Damn you.
I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to send you some papers.
But it's safety.
I think it's a lot less safe than you think it is.
Well, that's the whole thing is I don't think it's safe. That's the whole thing. At the end of the day, my belief is like stemming from this really like chaos theory to the umpteenth degree, right?
Love it.
It's just happenstance that we all exist on this planet at this time period
and I agree.
in this space. Because I am so outside of the space of, for me, it's not linear. For me, it's not singular. For me, it's vast, multiple dimensional, like huge, ungodly amounts of space and time that exist. And so, yes, Andy, go ahead.
Have you heard of the bubble theory, like the multiverse theory, where all of the different bubble? I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Okay, that's all.
Well, that's the...
Sorry. I was just super excited because I wrote a paper on it in high school, and I was like, I loved it then, and I still love it now. Or like the Big Bang and the Big Shrink.
That's my belief, is that it isn't singular, that this podcast is happening over and over and over again, and it's not it's happening at the exact same time.
Which is the one that wins?
We'll see. It's not over yet.
I've seen 1,072,000, whatever the fuck Doctor Strange says. There's only one where we win.
But that's what I believe.
And
so when we take that and throw it into this mix of science that we have now, it's literally rubbing two sticks together to make fucking fire. It is the most basic way to look at the spin of the fucking universe. And so, yes, I'm super happy that we have geology. I'm super happy that we can look at a fucking tree and tell that, or we can look at ice core samples, all these kind of different things. Super fucking wonderful. But it's too small. It's too simple. And all that it is doing is creating safety for us in this existence so that we perpetuate more of us. Because if we feel safe, then we have sex. And if we have sex, we make more babies. I mean, that to me is the creation of all of these different things. It's the creation of God and science. It's the thing that we've done as a human race to perpetuate the human race, is create safety with all of these things, when in reality, we're on a fucking rock in a massive universe that is one of infinite number of fucking universes.
And in every universe.
Right?
There's another rock.
And another
they're
me.
looking at cool fossils too. Because cool fossils are cool. They're really cool though.
They are really cool. I really like fossils.
I absolutely appreciate where you're coming from. Like, I love multiverse theory, string theory. I think it's so cool. It is very esoteric, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the day that someone smarter than me figures it out.
Do you need science to figure it out though?
I don't think you do.
I'm asking you specifically. For Andy, do you need science? Yeah.
No. I feel that there are things going on beyond what I can understand. Absolutely. The safe part of my brain, we're gonna get back to safe parts. But the part of me that wants to know every single thing finds it rational to go, okay, Pan troglodyte is a chimpanzee, and I can tell you all the facts about that. Ardipithecus ramidus is an early proto-human that does this, this, and this. And that labeling makes it very easy for my incredibly interested brain to grapple with the absolute staggering amount of information that this one rock contains. And you know what? When the next rock is, like, exoarchaeology is a thing. When we go to fucking Mars, you can bet your goddamn ass that I'm going to be right there digging up fucking fossils because I want to know. And I have a second side that's always going to be, I want to know more about myself. I want to know about the interconnectedness spaces in my brain that, you know, neural pathways look like a universe. Why are we not researching that more? That's cool. Let's research that. I just don't have the tools to go that far. So I'm going to know what I can know. And that makes me feel safe, but it also is so exciting to be able to make connections that no one else has made yet, and be able to publish that so that other people can learn and then make connections off of that. Because if this interconnected rock is able to know and learn and expand, then I can only hope that that's happening on the billions and billions of other small, tiny little fucking rocks that we're going to meet someday. And then I get to know even more shit. And that's cool. That's just cool. Like, you get to know things.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind that I get to know so much and go, Argon dating for this kind of rock because it was made in this period, but I want to use carbon dating on this bone because it's a certain type of bone. And I know that bone sticks to your tongue if you put it, like...
What if all of this shit, right? Yeah. Everything you just smart science brained threw out there on the table.
Sorry.
What if
that was a long diatribe.
What if all of that stuff was... What if that's what evolution is? Us just continually perpetuating safer and safer and safer and safer and safer for the race and for the species, right? So then that way we can just continually not just perpetuate evolution, because evolution only happens when we can pass down something from generation to generation, like you said earlier, right? You're going to give the next generation the best of what you've got with what you've learned up to this point. Mm-hmm. And that just continues the cycle over and over so that we perpetually get better and we continually evolve. What if all of these things that we're using to analyze and understand and look at our surroundings and our place in this universe are strictly there as a mechanism of evolution itself to perpetuate safety? Because I feel really safe when I have some people it's God, mm-hmm. Some people it's faith, some people it's that, some people it's understanding the science of, geology and paleo, to all of these different things that just simply make us feel safe in this moment. And that is what has continually perpetuated evolution and perpetuated this species. I like that thought.
Then we get to learn it all again. Like, how exciting is that?
Yeah.
We get, like, in 10, when the next stage of evolution comes, we get to do it all again, and we get to refigure out exactly what's going on. And that might be wrong too. Fuck it. Who knows? We can go through the wrong iteration 10, 20, a million times.
Well, think about the examples that we've been talking about in regards to, like, emotional health. And I'm really looking at it as like emotional evolution, right? Where you are definitely more advanced emotionally and awareness. Like, we might have an understanding of where you're going to be in 10 years because of the experience that has taken us 40 years to get there in some regards. But the fact that you're there earlier means that we aren't going to recreate some of the same problems with future generations. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing emotional evolution firsthand like live in front of me right now. I can touch it. I can taste it. I can feel it, right? This is happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
As a parent, that just brings me so much relief. Like, oh, thank God.
I mean,
Think
I think
whatever.
what's really
Think whatever.
interesting is that the emotional evolution that we're going through just from, okay, when my dad was alive, the 50s, like he was born in 51, to me now is going to continue to the point where that's going to be, hopefully, ingrained in a society, not just in individuals, because this, like what we're doing right now, sorry, I didn't mean to hit that, wasn't a thing in the 1900s.
Yeah.
Like in the early 1900s, this wouldn't be a concept. This would be a cup of coffee. So just progressing further and further and further until an idea is ingrained in society and is therefore proliferated even further and further till a society sustains that as a principle of life.
And then
I think that's what I'm so excited about for like the emotional evolution.
so then that in turn creates more safety, which in turn creates more people, which in turn creates more evolution. Because if we have now suddenly a standard of emotional well-being and health, then we don't have fucking serial killers. Then we don't have fucking crazy shit that happens. Then we don't have people killing themselves. Then we don't have all of these things that have been, propagated by trauma and by all of these other variables and factors. And so we've created this emotional stability and intelligence and level of evolution that we're passing down from generation to generation. Solely, the sole purpose of it is just evolution. The sole purpose of it is just safety. So now suddenly we don't have anxiety and we feel safe. Now suddenly we have a capacity to understand it and communicate it and connect it. And suddenly next thing you know, it's gone. That, 5 generations from now, maybe there won't be anxiety. And we'll recognize it much earlier. Who knows? I mean, that's the fact, is that is in fact a reality and a possibility if we look at it from the emotional evolutionary standpoint of kind of what we're talking about.
I mean, will it be gone or will it just be accepted and identified and
I think it will be
taught?
gone. I think it will be gone because I think we will stop creating the experiences that create it. Anxiety, I think anxiety or quote unquote mental illness or whatever we want to call it, right, isn't naturally occurring. I think it's created by meaning the baby isn't just born with the neurological pathways to have anxiety. I think it's created, obviously, genetically, as well as what we're exposed to as we grow, right? The traumas and the experiences that we have create these things inside of us. So at some point, anxiety will be gone because we will have such a fucking understanding of it. 50 years ago, they're like, fuck you, anxiety is not even a thing, right? You'd say, hey, do you have anxiety? What are you talking about?
You're not talking about the elimination of fears or things to be concerned about or seeing something that's coming in to be aware of. You're talking about the irrational part of it, that your brain's going crazy, that you're having the
Think about it
panic
as a
attack in the
disease.
car. You're having the...
Okay? Think about it as a disease. We will cure anxiety. Maybe in 5 generations from now.
I think that's possible, but I think you're also holding on to an aspect of humans that does not exist in the whole of the rabbit hole here, that does not exist in the pharmaceutical industry. Why would they cure something that is bringing in so much money? So you think the possibility is there?
Once again, I'm just looking at it from evolutionary standpoint of how do we perpetuate more safety, because safety breeds more evolution. Because if we're safe, we fuck and we make babies. And if we make more babies, then we evolve faster. So there's 7-8 billion people on the planet right now. So we are evolving faster than we've ever evolved before.
Safety looks different for different people.
Because we have more of us. So the way that we evolve faster is by creating more safety so that we could fuck more and we have more babies.
Are you just horny?
No, I'm just crass. But that's what I think, right? I think that that's the sole purpose of evolution, is to create more of us.
It's people do that to further their own line.
But
so when you
we
find
are
the
all
group
the
of the
same line.
mass, okay, well, you're looking at it as we all are one, but
No, Homo sapiens.
I'm taking it as like I can see how so many of these things are possible. I can see how that is a possibility, but I can't see how humans will allow it, because I feel like money is always going to speak louder than science and the well-being. I know that this is a spin, but I don't know.
What's money there for? To create safety. Think about it. Think about it. If you have money, you feel safe. If you don't feel safe.
I think that's also perspective.
That's also a mindset. These are fucking endless rabbit holes.
Where are you going? Have we
realize
thrown
this,
you
Andi.
enough?
I think that is very interesting in the first thing that came to my mind when you said that was eugenics. Because we are, once again, electrified jello in a brain casing.
So define eugenics for folks that don't know what eugenics is.
Eugenics is the control of who gets born, basically.
So eugenics is what Hitler was all about.
Why are you
Eugenics is the
looking at me?
idea. I'm sorry. YouTube, internet, the people out there. Eugenics is the
I'm
idea
really
is that
sitting on
there's
a
a
phone book over
superior
here.
race that we can control, right? Is that what you think I'm talking about?
No, and
Okay.
also I don't think that's that's the more widely accepted. I'm gonna Google it just to make sure, because I mean, like, I have an entire supercomputer in my pocket, so let's make sure we're on the same page.
Does
right?
that supercomputer make you feel safe?
No,
We should have told you from the beginning that I really like playing the devil's advocate.
I can tell you're like what, almost a white dude. The study of how to arrange reproduction within a human population to increase the occurrence of heritable characteristics regarded as desirable.
So yeah.
So the eradication of anxiety or mental illness that is one viewable through a CAT scan of the brain. I mean, PTSD is viewable through a CAT scan of the brain. Anxiety, a lot of different things. I mean, hell,
Nobody's ever looking at my brain. I'm not ready for that amount of truth.
It's so sexy.
I love the idea of auras too. Like, and you can read auras. Sure, why the fuck not? Like,
We
let's.
both can, actually.
I was like,
I
the
love
idea.
it. I can't do it, so I.
You can, actually, and you do.
Okay.
But that's a whole nother episode.
That sounds like the third episode. That we're doing. The eradication of anxiety seems like a natural function in the brain to create safety. To eradicate that would be essential, I think, in the creation of a population that is not advancing.
Okay. And my argument to what you just
Mm-hmm.
said, as best as I can to understand what you just said, was that is because if you're strictly solely separating everything from the equation, right? I don't have my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own bias, my own belief, my own wants, my own desires. I'm only looking at these things from the perspective of how does it evolve the race forward? And by race, I mean, how does it evolve this species, the human race, Homo sapiens? How does it evolve us forward? Because that is a ball that got spinning a long time ago, and we've all continually spun it. Like, that's the goal. And when we look at it from that perspective, I'm not saying anxiety is bad and we need to eliminate it. Okay. I'm not saying that it doesn't create beautiful, beautiful things. I'm not saying that it hasn't helped in the perpetuation of our evolution, because I very much think that it has. You talked about that belief earlier on, or that theory that these things like ADHD or autism or any of these other things that we could label have in fact perpetuated evolution and have perpetuated all this creativity and this advancement. I totally agree with that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. However, if we're looking at just strictly and solely from a perspective of evolution and how do we perpetuate the species, it doesn't make us feel safe. Anxiety creates fear. Anxiety is directly correlated with fear. And so if we're only striving for safety, and the only reason we're striving for safety is that we make more babies when we feel safe, right? There's not a whole lot of baby making going on in the middle of chaos and in the middle of war. In the middle of a tornado, you don't say, well, there are those people that do like to fuck in the middle of tornadoes, but there's not a lot of baby making that's going on in the middle of chaos. So we're going to eventually evolve to the point where we have no longer experienced anxiety. Now, whether or not we replace it with something else, or whether or not we evolve to another place where we can perpetually evolve even faster because we're not held back by anxiety, I totally think that's the case. But the idea is, what is going to help us feel safer so that we can then in turn make more of us? That's the whole thing. And if I run everything through that filter, then things start to get really kind of black and white. Does this make us feel safe or does this not? Is this here for this purpose or for that purpose? We have to wrap up though, Andy. We have a child somewhere. We don't know where he's at right now. We have to feed him some dinner and locate him first and foremost.
Good parents.
We are good parents. He's
Kept all 4 of
14.
them. He's fine.
He's fine.
He's fine.
It's not like
He's got a light on his phone.
Yeah, he's totally fine.
got a
It's
coat.
warm
He's got a
outside.
knife, right?
He's
Probably
he
got
does,
5 knives on
actually.
him
Yeah.
right now at this
Yes,
point.
probably. It's not a
Weird
joke.
kid.
Small
He's not
children with
weird.
knives are they're fine.
He's big.
Is there anything else, babe, before we wrap up that
There's
just
so
chomping
much.
at?
So I hope we get to do this again because there is so much. So much. But
Anything you want to close with? Anything you want to say?
thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
I really appreciate just, a platform to be even more self-involved and think that I'm funny.
You're funny,
You have to be nice to you.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
clever.
If I hate myself, no one else can hate
Stop.
me. Ah,
You have to be nice. It's a new rule.
it's
We'll
been
get it
wonderful.
engraved. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're definitely more than welcome anytime, and we hope that you come back.
Ooh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, everybody, to this amazing, wonderful podcast that was almost just about 3 hours, which is pretty fucking awesome.
Dang.
Maybe
All right.
close to the longest one yet. At least in a long time.
I think so, yeah.
Really?
I don't
It's been
think
a
there's
really
ever
long
been a
time.
3-hour one.
Damn.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah. I don't think there's ever. I will
knows?
challenge
You
that.
got me talking about the scientific process.
Yeah.
I got so excited.
Next time, we're going to get you feeling. That's the next
Don't
part.
tell her that yet.
What? No. I don't want to feel.
See?
No, thank you. No, thank.
Well, save that for after you get your degree, after you complete, before you go to your PhD.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay, we're wrapping up. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.